Hello, and welcome to another episode of Zeno Chat. I'm one of the hosts, Tyler, along with Justin.
What's up, everyone?
All right, and we got several guests with us today for another special episode. First up, we have B.
Hello, everyone.
And Nick.
Hello.
Robin.
You ever notice how it's always a special episode? I feel like we're on Clone High.
And Anthony from Retro Roulette. Sorry, I don't know why I blanked on that. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's only in my username on Discord that,
Yeah.
So there all the time.
Yeah, whatever. He's new.
It's okay.
Retro Roulette.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I get it. I understand.
Anyways, go on.
But yeah, today is a very special episode because I should have this done by the time that this is reality, but today is Xenoblade Chronicles 10-year anniversary for North America. Woo!
Yeah, 10 years since that game came out. Go figure.
It's incredible.
So
where does the time go?
Yeah,
I feel
for real.
so old, man.
Honestly, lately it feels like we're doing a lot more special episodes than usual.
I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of anniversaries happening.
Mm-hmm.
True. Very true. I think that was kind of what I was getting at with that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Our favorite games are getting old, guys.
I know, and you're getting old too.
Yep.
Well, don't
Yeah.
worry. I mean, Xenoblade 3 is 0 years old, so you're fine.
But yeah, it's wild to think that it's been 10 years since Xenoblade Chronicles has come out in North America, and all of the insanity leading up to its release.
Yes.
And it's kind of wild to think about like where the series went from back in 2009, 2010, and 2011 to today, where it's like this big franchise. A lot of people are into it. A lot of people know about it. I mean, back in 2012 when this game was coming out, I knew a couple of people who were into it, mostly people who had played Xenosaga, but a lot of people that I spoke to about Xenoblade, they're kind of just looking at me like, what are you doing? What's Xenoblade? Why am I going to play a game on the Wii? That's another thing. Like, Xenoblade Chronicles is an interesting title because that was like one of the last major first-party titles by Nintendo. And I think the last first-party title to be released by Nintendo that was also that same year. It was the Kirby Collection. I think it was like Kirby Dream Collection or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
And that wasn't even a new game. That was a re-release of some older titles.
But actually, before we get too into it, this is Anthony's first real episode.
That's right.
What?
It was the trivia
That
one.
wasn't a real
That doesn't
episode.
count.
That was
That
special.
was a side episode, yes.
This
What
is a
is
real
this?
episode.
Gatekeeping.
It was a fake episode. It never actually happened.
Well, this is going to be
No.
very relevant because Anthony's Xeno experience is kind of mostly relegated to Xenoblade, but
Xenoblade 1, yeah. I am planning on playing more of the games, and if I don't have time to play them, I'm going to watch them. Because one way or another, I'm going to get as invested in this series as the rest of you. Because I've been curious about the Xeno games for years, and Xenoblade left a strong enough impression that I feel comfortable getting invested in the rest of the series.
Okay, well, would you like to just give us your exciting Xeno story that I think you just gave us?
I was going to say, I'm not sure how much you can say, but sure,
Say
go for it.
all! I don't care!
Okay, so where should I start? Like, just start from the beginning of Xenoblade 1 and just give you my impressions of everything,
Or just talk about how you even heard of it.
Yeah, whatever
Okay.
you want.
That's
really.
literally just like
Start on the day you were born, perhaps.
Yeah, if you
yeah,
could.
right in the hospital.
Right.
Years ago, there was a young lad who was going into his early 20s. His name was Anthony, and he had a friend named Mike. And Mike one day mentioned to me that there was this game that was coming out that he was very excited for called Xenoblade Chronicles. And I asked him about it, and he explained it to me, and he's told me about Operation Rainfall and all the hype surrounding this game and how big of a deal it was that it it was actually coming and that Nintendo listened to its fans for once in its fucking life. He was really excited about it, and I said, "Oh, that's cool. What's the gameplay like?" And then he looked at me with a very bitter look on his face because he knew what I knew and that the gameplay was not going to appeal to me. So I never picked it up, never touched it, didn't think about it until years down the line until I met Justin. And Justin told me that he wrote for Operation Rainfall. And
I still right, but yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. You still do, right? You but yeah, you worked with Operation Rainfall, and I was into Operation Moonfall, which was inspired by Operation Rainfall because Majora's Mask is my favorite game.
Oh yes,
and Moonfall was a project or a petition to get Nintendo to bring Majora's Mask to the 3DS, and that was entirely unnecessary because apparently that had been the plan from the start. They just didn't like to tell anybody these things. And so after I met Justin, we developed this really strong friendship, and one of the things I like doing with close friends is I like to play games that mean things to them. It's just to see if I can get it. And Justin, you had told me that Xenoblade was a game that had significantly impacted and changed your life, and I'm sure you'll get into that story eventually, but after you told me that, I became very, very curious, and the definitive edition came out, and I was like, all right, you know what? Betsy picked it up, my wife, Betsy, she picked it up for the 3DS, and I took a look at it, and my initial impression was, Jesus Christ, this game is ugly as fuck! And then definitive edition came out, and I was like, well, my one gripe with the game, other than the combat system being that the game looked like visual vomit, was addressed with definitive edition. So it things being much more palatable to me now, I picked it up, and actually Justin lent me a spare copy of his actually, and I played it, and I really liked it. I would say that I would probably have enjoyed my experience a little bit more if I wasn't bum rushing it. I've got an insane backlog of games, so I wanted to try and get through it as quickly as I could.
Mm-hmm.
And I also is imposing this challenge on myself to not drop to casual mode, despite the game's insistence that the enemies were too strong for me. Every 5 seconds, it was enemies too strong for the real baby gamer.
And I was like, the easy mode.
I was like internally boiling at every time it asked me that, because it literally shows up every other death. It'll prompt you for that.
I'm gonna say also blame Nintendo there.
And so that caused my blood to boil, but I was really enjoying the story. The gameplay is kind of like, the way I interpret the gameplay is, it's kind of like if you took an MMORPG's combat system and you put it in a single player game. It's very similar to Final Fantasy XII's, from what I had seen of that game. And that's not my preferred type of combat system, but I got used to it and I adapted to it, and I've decided that because I enjoyed the story as much as I did, that I could probably get through the rest of the series. But are we allowed to talk spoilers on this, or
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
It went in certain directions that I would have never expected. I somehow managed to remain 99.9% unspoiled for most of the game. The one major spoiler that got ruined for me by Super Smash Brothers was the existence of Hyper Metal Fiora, and that she doesn't get she doesn't actually die when she gets shish kebabbed in the opening act of the game. But Shulk actually being Zanza, or like Zanza having Silk's form. Um, and like the whole, the how, a science experiment created the world, and the Mechonis and the Bionis and all that stuff. Like I didn't know any of that, or I didn't know about like Dixon actually like being like a big bad guy. The only tip off that you really have is that one cutscene where he says he feels bad for deceiving the kids, and that was like where I was like convinced that something was up with that character. But
I don't know why you're paying so much attention to Dixon. That's weird.
On just the on just like the main story, I really liked the bright and colorful cast of characters. Everyone felt unique, and I really enjoyed it. It was refreshing. It was something that felt familiar yet new at the same time. So I'm very excited to pick up Xenoblade 2.
So you haven't played 2 yet?
What? I'm sorry?
Have you played 2 yet?
I haven't started 2. I only know I only know little things and odds and ends about 2.
Okay. Because at the end at the end of 1, because I played it later on, something that happened that blew my mind. I'm not saying it. I'm not. I'm done.
I don't think we're allowed to say that Xenoblade 2 exists.
What?
Xenoblade 2 is not real. Please stop making things up.
Okay. Please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
I was gonna say.
No, you're good. You're good.
You're fine.
But I really, like I said, but if there's one thing about Xenoblade 1 that kind of like just took it over the edge for me, as far as like my appreciation goes for this game, it is the music, which was, every track is a slapper, especially like the night themes. But visually speaking, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, that's the only version I played, has some of the most breathtaking visuals I have ever seen in my life. And I've been playing video games since I was 2 years old. I have never found myself stopping to just play a game. Sorry, not to play. Yeah, I'm obviously playing a game, but I've never like stopped myself just to like look at scenery in a game before. Not even during Breath of the Wild. Like when I was playing Breath of the Wild, I'd be like noticing myself while playing, like, oh, this looks nice. Oh, this is pretty. Oh, wow, this is really beautiful. But Xenoblade Chronicles, in particular, the Satoral Marsh at night and the Aerith Sea at night, both of those made me just stop what I was doing and just completely took my breath away. And when I got to the Aerith Sea and I saw the star shower at night, I've never gotten emotional just looking at scenery before, but that shit hit me so hard that like I actually found myself tearing up a little bit just because of like how beautiful it was. The music accompanying the visual scenery with everything going on, it was incredible. And that, I feel like, is what Monolith Soft, that's their true like that's where they shine the brightest, is their music and their scenery. It's incredible. I've only seen, out of context bits and pieces of Xenoblade 2 from when Justin was showing me, and again, I know that I'm gonna have my breath taken away in those games, because from what he showed me in the second game, I was like, wow, this is really incredibly pretty. And I'm very excited to see more. And I also know that the Saga games also have some pretty incredible imagery, especially for the time period that they were made in. So Overall, I would say that the thing that impressed me most about Xenoblade Chronicles was the music and the scenery. The story was great. I really found the characters charming and endearing, and I'm excited to see more of the series. But yeah, that's my Xenoblade story, and yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
I would
Sure.
also say, like, on the point of the scenery, I think you will see this in later stuff when you go for it too. But it's a good testament to like how good they are at world building in general. Is that like how well, not only that there is like at least an explanation for how the scenery takes shape, but like just the level of detail they go into in referencing like where this part of the map takes place in the world is really cool. So like that's definitely a big thing too. I did want to ask Anthony something, if that's okay, really quick, about the 3DS version that he mentioned, and that's that after you saw like in definitive edition the scale of the game, do you like, yeah, it was running on a 3DS. Do you even though you thought it was ugly on that, like, do you think of it as like a lot more impressive? 3DS. Do you think that of it as a lot more impressive now that you know the scale of it, or like
just the fact that they got a game as massive as Xenoblade Chronicles, even if it's the Wii edition, that they got a game that big on the new 3DS, because that was a thing. I have to like call that exclusive, because that was a requirement to play that one. I think it might have been the one.
It was one of the few. There's a couple others.
Like there's like you can count them on like one hand, I think.
Yeah.
But you know, I hate to be that guy, but if that was the only way, if you can't afford a Switch and you had a new 3DS, and that was the only way you could play it, yes, better some Xenoblade than not. But when they call Definitive Edition definitive, they mean it, because I feel like the 3DS and the Wii version kind of almost do the game a disservice. And I'm not normally one to... I'm always gameplay and fun over graphics, but my God, does Definitive Edition just... It is a treat for the eyes. And I feel like the 3DS version shouldn't be the way you experience that game for the first time. If you are a Xenoblade addict and you gotta have it on the go, and it doesn't matter what the game looks like to you, then have it on the 3DS. Far be it from me to judge.
I guess that's well said enough. I won't hit the eject button on you.
One of the more interesting things about that on the 3DS, from my perspective, was when they released it on there, I noticed that Nintendo seemed to never really advertise it. Like, anytime I saw an ad for the new 3DS, they would be showing like Pokemon, Mario 3D Land, all these games that you could play on the regular 3DS, but they would very rarely show Xenoblade. And I always thought to myself that, like, wouldn't you want to show the enhancements that the new 3DS has over the original one? Wouldn't you want to show that it's running this gigantic game? And yet, for whatever reason, it seemed like they didn't want to talk about that. And I always thought that was weird.
Maybe it's because they knew they were going to do Definitive Edition. That would be my theory, anyway, on it. But.
My 3DS version was possessed. It would randomly say that it ejected from the 3DS without me saving. So I got as far as I would, go for progress, and then it would say, oh, eject, and I didn't save the game, so I'd have to go back to last save.
Yeah.
So I got as far as the giant spider in Tetra Cave, and I'm like, nope, I'm done. I can't.
Nope. Oh, that was
all right,
before autosave.
Oh. Wow, that's the Monato's power, all right.
Okay,
again,
so
I have to stress this. Graphics aren't everything in a video game, but Xenoblade and Monolith Soft are two things where, if you really want to appreciate something to the fullest ability, to appreciate what each company the company and the product are capable of, Definitive Edition is the way to go. It really is.
Okay. What were you
Yeah.
about to say, Justin?
So I was going to say, all right, because we can talk about Definitive Edition. Let's go back in time a bit, and let's try to look at this from the perspective of the late aughts, around 2010, that time, like when the original Wii was relevant, right? So
yes,
they released this trailer for a game called Monano, the Beginning of the World. Did you guys see that trailer back in the day?
I did not.
Nope.
All right, so I did see that, and I remember my initial impressions of it was, like I didn't think too much of it, and I know the Wii was getting a bunch of action RPGs that weren't really reviewing too hot at the time. Even though I love the Wii, I was always looking for RPGs to play on the system because that generation was my favorite system. I know, very hot take with that one. The Wii was not a popular console at the time.
No, it was not. And people insulted you if you had a Wii.
Mm-hmm. You don't know how many times I mentioned the Wii and like a game on the Wii, and people be like, "Why would I want to play that? It's on the Wii."
Yeah. Like
everyone had a Wii. Nobody.
I kind of share your hot take. That was my favorite console of that generation too.
Yeah.
And I got, like, when we were getting excited about Smash Brothers Brawl, the COD chads in the room were always chastising us, saying, "Why do you play Nintendo? Isn't that for babies?" And I was like,
"Oh my God, I remember that."
Yeah, and then I was excited that it was going to have that little controller, like a remote control.
Yeah.
I was excited about that. I'm like, what?
I thought that was cool.
It doesn't look like a controller, but it's a controller. What? Yeah.
I remember what really sold me on the Wii was the Virtual Console at the time. When they announced that. I remember thinking that was the coolest thing. Like, oh my goodness, I could play like N64 games on this thing. I could play Super Nintendo games on this. And I remember, like, at the time, it's weird because today everybody talks about how much they want Virtual Console back.
Yeah.
But at the time, if I mentioned Virtual Console and this has happened, I'll mention it, and then everybody would be like, "Who the hell wants to play old games? Dude, I could just download an emulator. Why would I give Nintendo money for that? Dude, that's so stupid."
Hours I spent playing Pokemon Snap on my Wii.
Yeah.
Well, that and like WiiWare, I think the place where the Virtual Console really got, I mean, it was whenever my friend introduced me to like Sin and Punishment on there, was like, oh shit, this game is really cool, and we never got this here before.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing. They started bringing imports. Like they had Rondo of Blood on the Wii. That was a huge one for me. I remember Star Parodier. Like, it was cool that they had TurboGrafx games come on there because I didn't own a TurboGrafx and I really didn't know much about it.
True.
So that was a way for me to experience some of those games, and that was awesome.
Jumping ahead to 2011, Skyward Sword came out where it showed the full capability of the Wiimote. Like, you had to physically get up and swing your arm around to actually make Link.
Yeah, it was like them kind of perfecting what they started with Twilight Princess, because like. That was a big deal at the time when Twilight Princess came out, but then shortly after, people were just like, "Oh, it's just a Waggle Zelda," and then, a lot of folks I think kind of shunned that game for a bit because of that. But yeah, it's interesting when you look at the Wii from that perspective, from that time period, because a lot of really good games were coming out for the Wii, but they were just getting overlooked by basically everybody because a lot of people were saying this system isn't HD, so why would I want to play this? Or like, oh, this is a 2D game, why would I want to play this? Dude, I'm not going to play Muramasa. That game looks like trash. You say that today, people will jump down your throat and ratio you to high hell on Twitter, but back then that was 100% a popular take.
Wait, you actually heard somebody that told you Muramasa looked like trash?
Oh, well, not for that game, but I mean, like, a lot of Wii games.
They look like shit, is what they were saying.
People would say that.
Oh, yeah, they would say that about Wii games in general. I was just like, I didn't know anybody else who knew what the fuck Muramasa
I didn't know many people who knew what Muramasa was either. I pre-ordered it. Well, I didn't pre-order it. I got it right at the launch. That's what
I got it right at launch,
too. I got a Wii at launch because I was mostly excited because it was, unlike all the other systems around that time, it was backwards compatible with GameCube games.
Yeah, that was another reason why I got the Wii, because I didn't have a GameCube, so that was my way of catching up.
I had a GameCube and I got a Wii like pretty early on. I was still like big into the Nintendo stuff. That was around the time when I started branching out into like PlayStation stuff as well, but it was a few years later because I got the Wii first, and then years later I was like, the Wii is great, but there's a few other games I'm kind of interested in playing now that I've tried a few of my friends like PlayStation 2 games, and so I kind of branched out there. But
right.
For me, that was also where I first started getting into RPGs that weren't like, you know, Pokemon or Paper Mario at all, and started feeling that I wanted to branch out. And one of the biggest reasons was because of Xenoblade just looking awesome. And early on, my big finding out about it was through Nintendo Power, which I got at the time.
I remembered those.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually found and pulled up the issue that it was first announced in, because it was like after E3, and they'd had like, it was like the August issue of 2009. It was issue 244, and they just had like a really short little write-up on that one that didn't tell me much, but it was like, the name sounded interesting because it was Monado Beginning of the World. I remember reading a little bit later, though, in a later Nintendo Power, where they got more details on it about the Titans that it took place on.
Yeah.
And that was like a big selling point for me. Like, I was looking for something that had like a big imaginative like world that I'd never seen anything like before, and just the idea of it taking place on the bodies of two Titans sounded awesome. And so that was like, yep, I gotta try this game out, you know.
Absolutely.
But that's
I'll definitely give Xenoblade props for its setting, because that is absolutely a major creative point of that game, is that your world are the backs of two Titans, and that's just incredible. I mean, no game has really done something all that similar that's in the main line, or in the mainstream as Xenoblade is. And on that point, actually, I just wanted to express for a moment how happy I am that Nintendo has made Xenoblade a flagship series.
So let's get into that for a bit, because all right, so you know they reveal Monado Beginning of the World, and I wish I dug up the article for this. At the time, you know, I knew about this, but it wasn't really a game that was on my radar. And eventually I saw an article, I think it was on Solcanera. It was either Solcanera or Gamatsu. It was one of those sites where they announced that it is now going to be called Xenoblade. And that's when it got my interest, because I was thinking to myself, like, I had played Xenosaga around that time too. I was going through those games, and then I heard that I had already played Gears. I did play Gears. I played Gears back in like middle school and high school. So when I heard that it was going to be called Xenoblade, that's when I started paying attention. I was like, hold up, is this a sequel? And I think that's the case for a lot of people. Like, I know a lot of people who said that, like, once they heard that it was called Xeno, that's when they started paying attention. But yeah, so they do that, and they also, you know, Nintendo also announced games like Pandora's Tower and The Last Story.
Yeah.
But things would get kind of weird, because some sites were reporting that Nintendo of America didn't want the game to be showed at E3 one year. There is an article from Nintendo World Report from June 23rd, 2011, where allegedly Nintendo of Europe wanted to show the game at E3, but Nintendo of America didn't want to show products that, quote unquote, they won't sell. So there's been a lot of rumors as to whether or not Nintendo's going to release this thing, and like Nintendo of America in particular, a lot of us were kind of waiting for them to be like, dude, announce these titles. And eventually you had the Operation Rainfall campaign, which was made to kind of bring awareness to people who don't know about these games, just bring awareness to all three titles. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why it's called Rainfall was because of the infamous Wii drought, which goes back to what we were talking about before, how people weren't playing the game. A phrase that you heard a lot around 2008, from like 2008 to about 2011, 2012, a phrase that was often used was Wii drought. People were saying there are no games for the system.
That's
what
right.
is coming?
That's
and
right.
So one of the reasons it's called Rainfall is because they're bringing rain, right? They're finally giving us some quality content on this console.
Right, yeah, and I can piggyback on that, because we definitely heard that too. My brother and I would go to our local EB Games, because that's the Canadian version of GameStop, and we would talk that there was this lack of quality games for the Wii. Like there was, just the Legend of Zelda. Then we heard about there were 3 JRPGs that were coming out. We're like, oh, and then I was actually talked out of it because they're like, you're female, you won't like it. I'm like, oh.
which is so
Which is-
insane. But you know what? I believe
Yes.
it.
It's so funny because a lot of the times, like, JRPGs are dismissed because, like, oh, girls like them, therefore they're bad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's-
but that's I think I talked about that before in an introduction story.
You did, but it still blows my mind that it happened.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I know better now. But anyway, yeah. So we
So,
heard
yeah.
about these 3 games coming out, JRPGs, big time. We got to keep an eye on them.
hmm
I didn't
And-
like the other 2 though.
There's been all sorts of rumors as to whether or not they're going to come out in North America. By this point, it had already been confirmed for a European release. They even had special editions secured as well. Europe got this really nice box set with a red classic controller. And I think in France, if you were like among the first 100 or so to like register the game, they sent you a translated version of Monado Perfect Work, the Monado book. I forgot what it's called.
Monado Archives.
Monado Archive, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they had that going on over there, and you know, Rainfall is up. They're also making articles about the game and letting people know about all 3 games existing. And when I found out about Rainfall, believe it or not, Blade was actually one of the games I was least interested in because the last story and Pandora's Tower looks so much better to me. And the ironic part is I actually haven't finished either of those 2 games.
Yeah, Pandora. I haven't played the last story, but Pandora's Tower bored the crap out of me.
I want to. Okay, so you know what?
Don't worry.
You know what? Pandora's Tower is one of those games I wish would get a remaster because one of the biggest problems I have with that game is that it did not run very well on the Wii. It was
No,
very
it
choppy.
We had actually when I was watching my brother play it, because again I didn't buy a copy because I was told not to. We actually froze the Wii on several occasions where we
Oh my
had to
goodness.
actually like complete pull the plug on the Wii to restart the game.
Oh, was that where it makes the horrible shrilling noise? That
Yes,
haunts my
that
brain?
one. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh
Yeah.
God, that noise was why I was afraid to mod Super Smash Brothers Brawl. I did it, I modded it, and I had fun with playing Brawl Plus and Brawl Minus and all that other crazy stuff. But to this day, that noise haunts my dreams.
Yep.
It is the most terrifying noise, especially when you least expect it, because it is so loud and so shrilling. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ah,
And out of the 3, when I was watching my brother play, the only one I would gravitate towards back to was Blade, and then I bought myself the 3DS copy, and well, you heard I had cursed cartridge. And then I bought the definitive edition.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, of the 3, well, if I remember correctly, it felt like it to me. Nintendo Power definitely mentioned the last story and Xenoblade fairly often. They did not talk much about Pandora's Tower.
Well,
Well,
I know that Hironobu Sakaguchi worked on the last story and his Walker team, so there's kind of a higher, I guess, pedigree. Well, I don't know too much about Pandora's Tower.
yeah, Pandora's Tower, that would eventually get published by Xseed, I believe, and that happened in
That sounds right.
2013.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, Exy did that and the last story.
Yeah, and the last story, yeah, it obviously had like has some big names on it. I remember reading the review in there and being like, "Oh, they put stealth elements in? That sounds really cool in an RPG."
Yeah.
And,
But yeah, there's some other really interesting articles at that time. Like there's one from Destructoid where the journalist noted that there was a listing on Peter Dixon, who would voice Saurian, that they had put that Xenoblade Chronicles was coming as a fall release in both Europe and the United States, which is really, really interesting to me. I didn't know about that until I was writing notes for this episode. And then, of course, there was the dreaded Facebook post that those of you who were following this at the time, y'all know what I'm talking about. June 29th, 2011, where Nintendo officially says, "Thank you for your enthusiasm. We promised an update, so here it is. We never say never, but we can confirm that there are no plans to bring these 3 games to the Americas at this time. Thanks so much for your passion and for being such great fans."
Yeah, they were really stubborn back in the day because they were at the time a company that like made decisions without influence from anyone, including their fans.
Mhm.
Like you could sign up. You could have 20 million signatures on a petition, and Reggie would turn around and say 20 million signatures doesn't mean 20 million sales. And it was like they hated money back
But I also wonder if like part of it is because of the state of the Wii at the time, because they had this feeling that people just wouldn't be interested in it.
Yeah,
Well-
I could believe that.
Yeah, remember when Amazon had a listing for Monado beginning of the world? And
They still do, actually.
Oh, really? Yeah, because I remember, that was part of Operation Rainfall
Someday.
was to pre-order that, and I remember like also writing letters to Nintendo of America and emailing them, and those were fun times.
Man, I missed all of that.
Yeah, and eventually, around I believe it was December 2nd, they finally announced that in 2011 they finally announced that it was in fact coming to North America. And there was all sorts of rumors surrounding that. There was people wondering where it was going to be distributed. There was rumors about GameStop being the distributor for that, which ended up being true. It was a GameStop exclusive at first.
Now, couldn't you also order it off of Nintendo's website as well?
Yes, you absolutely could. And there's kind of something funny about that. So remember how I mentioned that Europe got a special edition?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If you dug through Nintendo of America's website at the time, and I remember doing this, you could find a special edition for North America.
No way.
However,
But there's a but.
there's a huge but. We didn't get a special box. It was literally the game and a classic controller just bundled together.
Ew.
Like they just kind of packaged them together.
Now, why a classic controller, I wonder? Because this is during the Wii, right?
Yeah.
It was compatible with the classic controller, and
Oh,
so
the game was playable with Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's how
I remember
played most of the
when I was
first time.
watching my brother play it on the Wii. We never actually used the Wiimote. We used a classic controller.
Yeah, I used the original classic controller. I actually never got a pro, but that's actually how I played it. I used a classic controller to play the game.
I used the Wiimote.
Me too.
Half of it. Then I got annoyed, and then I got myself a nicer controller.
What was
So-
the difference in the regular classic and the pro? Was the pro just the one with handles? Because that's the one.
Yeah, the pro had handles. The
Yeah, that's the one I had.
No, the joysticks were on the regular one as
Yeah,
well.
it was on both.
Oh, no kidding.
It
It was just that the bumpers were in different positions.
That's okay, yeah, because I never had the original classic because I didn't like. For some reason, with my hands at the time, even I was like, it feels really weird to have these like control sticks with nothing to grip with the back of my hands. I don't know why. It just anyway.
I feel like that was my thought too. I don't think I got a classic controller until they got the pro. I think the classic controller I ended up getting was the GoldenEye one. When they remade GoldenEye, they packaged it with a golden classic controller, which looked really, really cool. And I mostly got it just for the classic controller, because I played a little bit of GoldenEye and did not like it at all. But and that I was mostly interested in that because like that was that GoldenEye was that game that like when it was on the N64. Everyone had it. I missed it completely. None of my friends had it, and so I wanted to see what the hype was about with the Wii remake. And yeah, it was.
I actually didn't have it
anyway,
on the 64 either, but
yeah, the
I
classic,
knew people did.
the classic Pro controller, I thought was more ergonomic.
Worked very well for Xenoblade.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what they did for us. They gave us like this really weird version of it. And I'm pretty sure I put a picture of what that looked like in the doc.
Yeah, you did. It was weird. It was very weird.
Yeah. So that's a kind of an interesting thing. And I remember if you pre-order from GameStop, you also got a small art book as well, which I actually still have. In fact, I even still have the original shipping label because I had it delivered to my house since I was actually away at school at that point. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to pick it up at the store. I'll just have it delivered at home. And then when I come home some weekend, I'll go ahead and play it. And I don't even know why I kept the label. I think I remember, like, I got it and I said to myself, I'm going to keep this for some reason. And I'm glad I did. Even at the time, I knew it was going to be a special game. What were you saying, Robin?
I was asking who else pre-ordered it.
Oh, yeah. I also have
not to.
Yes. I know you're a girl and therefore couldn't get video games.
I
was asking the men here.
So I didn't pre-order anything back then.
So I before it was confirmed for the US, I bought the European version. And then and then when it was announced for America, I was like, well, shit.
Two versions.
But yes, I did buy the American version, but I gave it to a friend in college, and I kept the art book, and I was just like, I'm supporting them. I'm supporting Monolith Soft, so I'll just buy the game twice, but give away.
Yeah.
So you would have had to mod your Wii then, because the Wii wasn't region free, right?
Yes. I got help.
Nintendo was going to be on all of our asses for all the mods going on.
Oh my goodness. Like, if you wanted Xenoblade at the time, you had to mod your Wii. If you wanted to play Fatal Frame 4, you had to mod your Wii. Or the Fatal Frame 2 remake, you had to mod your Wii for that. Want to play Captain Rainbow? Tough luck.
Funny enough, it was cheaper to import the European version than it was to actually buy the American version of the game.
That sounds about right.
Wow.
I believe that.
That's believable, because like the North American version stayed at like full price at least for the next 5-6 years.
Funny you should say that, because we're going to get into that nonsense.
Oh god.
I did not pre-order it. I actually didn't even know it came out in the US. I remember, I think it was either on RPG Fan or RP Gamer. I saw something that was discussing, like, hey, here's this cool, like, pseudo sequel to Xenosaga, and it's never coming here, so don't even get your fucking hopes up. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll just look at the pretty character art, and now I'll just forget about it. And then much fucking later, I was on a person's blog, and they were like, hey, what makes video games art? And someone was like, well, in Xenoblade. And I was like, that came here? What the hell? So I went to the store, and I was like, oh, there you are. Okay, thanks. And that was my exciting story of picking it up. Like, it was just, I went to the store, and there it was, and I said, cool, thanks, bye.
I have a much more exciting story of how I acquired Xenoblade 2 during the Xenoblade 2 famine, which is still ongoing, from what I understand.
I still had to feed my children with only like little Zenas.
Tell you what, you could save the Xenoblade 2 stuff for later on in the year, because we could do a Xenoblade 2 anniversary episode. The 5th year anniversary is in December.
Gosh,
I thought we already did the 5th anniversary. How many fucking 5th anniversaries does this game have?
Wait, cut this out of the episode, because we can't reveal our future plans.
I was going to reveal future plans in the future.
JK.
I'm going to buy a third Switch.
I guess you could say that we're now future connected.
Anyways, back to the release of the first game. So, the game came out. I got it. I was actually probably one of the few people I knew who bought it. By that point, almost everybody I knew had well moved on from the Wii. But I was still holding on to it. I was still playing games on it at the time. And I would always go to GameStop, and I would always check to see if they had Xenoblade, because I was curious if like this was going to be some really rare game, or if this is like some limited print or something. Because the way people made it seem, the people made it seem that it was going to be a limited print, and that most of the copies they had were just going to be remnants from pre-orders.
Yeah,
so
that was it. Like, what they were going to have in stock was it.
Yeah, that was it. But funny enough, for much of that year, I often saw at least one copy of Xenoblade at every GameStop I went to. And I remember I made sure to check. I did get one friend to buy it, and I don't know if he played it, but hey, I got him to buy it. That was good. Mm-hmm. But around the time the Wii U had come out, later that year, I think it was 2012, the Wii came out.
Yeah, I think so.
Around that time, copies started to disappear. And people were saying that, like, oh man, I can't find Xenoblade, because I think a lot of people bought the Wii U and they wanted games to play on it, so they're like, oh well, Xenoblade just came on the Wii, I could play that on there. And I guess like because of what, that's one of the reasons I think like people started to just buy the game like crazy, because you just could not find it anywhere. And if you went on eBay, it was selling for like 80, 90 even. It was going for like an insane amount of money online. But something weird happened in 2013.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
I feel like this is
Copies.
where we need to cut to a commercial break and then we can come back.
And this podcast has been brought to you by the letter X.
I apologize for the coughs up. I'm still recovering from a
How
cold.
dare you cough
Yes.
on our sacred
You're
podcast?
human. You have human functions and
I know,
human
right?
needs.
Gross. Get out.
You're fine.
I'm actually Mechon. What? Okay, so in around 2013, copies of Xenoblade started showing up at GameStops. Just randomly, copies started showing up again. And then they were priced at like $70 to $90, like in that range. They were a ridiculous amount of money over there.
Mhm.
I got very lucky because I bought my copy in like 2013 and I got it just at normal full price.
Now, it wasn't unusual for GameStop to price games that were kind of harder to find as like ridiculously expensive. I remember a time where Marvel vs. Capcom 2 would sell for like $80 at GameStop.
I remember
So
a time where a pre-owned copy of the Metroid Prime trilogy went for $70.
In
Yeah.
fact, we're going to get to that. That Metroid Prime trilogy is related to the story.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
exciting.
by all means, keep going.
Yeah, it
I
is
love
it
Metroid
is
Prime.
absolutely
I
involved
love
with the
story
story.
time with Justin.
So what happened was that started going on, and I distinctly remember going on GameStop's website and then checking Xenoblade on there. And then I noticed that there's a new banner on GameStop's site and a new lineup of games called their vintage lineup, their vintage game lineup. And there was art of Xenoblade. And if you clicked on that, you'd see listings for Xenoblade and Metroid Prime Trilogy, which even at the time was a pretty hard game to find, especially the Steelbook version.
Yeah.
And
at
she
that
went
point-
and she went on Xenoblade's page at the time, which you guys could see because I found an archive of it. So y'all know I'm not making this up.
I mean, my first thought is always you're a compulsive liar. So.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And she went on Xenoblade's website at Xenoblade's page on GameStop at the time. There was a whole bunch of extra artwork from the game on there. There was like descriptions of the story, character bios. They went crazy trying to promote this on their website. And I mean, it's a GameStop exclusive, so of course they're going to promote it. Even in store, I do remember that they having some videos promoting it on like their TV. But yeah, like they were going hard promoting this, and they were selling this as a vintage game. But where it gets shady is people started to realize that these copies were basically brand new. They were almost always like mint condition, and people started to suspect that like, holy shit, this is actually a reprint copy that GameStop opened up and sold as used. And then now they're trying to create a brand new lineup of games to justify the high prices that they're selling it at. And this was done for Xenoblade and Metroid Prime Trilogy. I don't recall any other games. I believe it was just those two games, which is kind of weird to call those two vintage games, even in 2013.
Yeah.
Now, I believe,
Yeah,
I believe for legal reasons, we need to say allegedly they did this.
it's not. Well, allegedly reprint copies, not allegedly that they call them vintage, because I have the web archives to prove that.
Yeah, I'm sure that I believe.
We're not in a court of law. We can say it.
So I got the receipts on that one.
Also, the GameStop doing something scummy or shitty like that would not surprise me, not even in the slightest bit. I wouldn't even blink.
Oh, come
In
on,
fact,
Ed.
I'm looking
Power
at
to
the-
players, am I right?
So I'm looking at the archive link right now, and the price for Xenoblade Chronicles this capture is from August 13, 2013. The price of Xenoblade Chronicles on that day was $89.99.
Get the
Jesus.
fuck out of here.
And you can look, you click on the link, you'll see it.
Oh no,
If
I
you can see
believe
the-
you. That's me responding to their asking price.
Actually, you know what? Hold on a moment. Let me go check to see something. I will be right back. You can keep recording. I'm just
Sure.
checking.
Just to
And
put
if you
it
look at the banner above Xenoblade Chronicles, it'll say Vintage Video Games, and then next to it says, "You asked, we delivered. Xenoblade Chronicles."
and also to put it in perspective, I went to a game exchange store in Pittsburgh like a month or so ago, and I saw the Wii version, for just $50, like today, or like this year. So that's absolutely crazy that it was going for that price back then.
It was going for an insane amount of money. In fact, if you look at some of the other links, I have links to various outlets covering this very thing, because they're talking about both Metroid Prime Trilogy and Xenoblade. Let's see. According to Nintendo Life,
out to be the good guys in this situation.
According to Nintendo Life, they were selling Metroid Prime Trilogy at $84.99.
Oh my gosh!
Wow, it went up. It went up even higher than what it was when I worked there. When I worked for GameStop, I think it was like 2011. I want to say was when I was around the time I stopped. We had a copy of Prime Trilogy, and I every shift I would be like, do I want to pick up a second copy because of how hard this is to find? And then reason kicked in every time, and I said no. But it was marked at $70 and it was pre-owned, and I was like, wow, that's a lot for a pre-owned Wii game.
It is $20 on Wii U eShop right now if you want it.
Yeah, I mean, a couple years ago, I bought one of our. I don't know if you have Microplay down there. One of our stores was closing, so I went out and I picked up an unopened Xenoblade Chronicles 1 for the Wii for under $30. And I'm like, I'm happy.
Wow.
Yep. Oh, so there's an article from our favorite Kotaku about this.
Oh, this is gonna be good. Here we go, boys. He brought up Kotaku.
It's Kotaku, and it's even Jason Schreier writing this too. That's
even better. All right, hold on. I'm gonna go get the popcorn. I'll be right back.
But Jason had commented that he called a bunch of NYC GameStop this morning, and employees at 3 stores told me that within the past 2 weeks, they received new shipments of used Xenoblade Chronicles, which they'd happily sell me for $90.
Oh, that's scummy.
Yes, that's taking advantage of your customer base there, and
honestly,
and the fan base.
At the time, I had whenever I got my copy, because I got it a bit later than I wanted to. It was just kind of like money stuff at the time. But anyway,
now
by the time I got it, I was like, I'm lucky that I even got it at the price I did.
So the next day, I think it was the next day. The next day, Jason wrote another article where they talked about how they actually reached out to GameStop to comment on it. And GameStop, according to him, said, GameStop regularly receives feedback from our Power Up members regarding old titles they would like us to bring back, such as vintage games like Xenoblade Chronicles. Bold of you to call a game that came out a year ago vintage. We were recently able to source a limited number of copies of this title to carry in our stores and online. In fact, we have sourced several more vintage titles that will be hitting stores in the coming months, including Metroid Prime Trilogy. As always, our pricing for these games is competitive and based on current market value driven by supply and demand. Power Up Pro members always receive a 10% discount and earn Power Up rewards points on pre-owned purchases. Driven by supply and demand. Well, who controls the supply? It's GameStop.
Yep.
Wow.
Anyway, I am back. I went to check to see if I had taken the price sticker off of my copy, and I had. So, the end.
And let me tell you, I remember even at the time, there were some big YouTubers that were making videos about this, calling GameStop out on this. Some of them are still up even. And according to Archive, the vintage banner would disappear, quote unquote, by August 24th. So, yeah, that was like one of those things that kind of quietly swept aside.
Yeah.
It came and it went because people were. We lived in the age of the internet, and people aren't stupid. They are not as stupid as these companies think we are. and we know when they're up to some shenanigans. And that was some grade A shenanigans.
Yep. And you can actually still buy Xenoblade from GameStop today for, I think it's about $30 there. And another interesting thing, I don't know as much about this, but like more recently, and by more recently I mean like within the last 5-6 years, there's been another set of Xenoblades coming up in GameStops. I believe these are like supposed to be UAE editions of Xenoblade, and those have English on them. And I did see those in some GameStops. And it seems like there's a bunch of Nintendo games that were getting reprinted like that. They have like this extra little label on them.
What is UAE? I've never heard of that.
United Arab Emirates. So they started printing some Nintendo games for release in that region, and I think some of those actually made it in the States.
Oh, okay. Yes, I think I know somebody who lives in the UAE.
You do.
Okay. Yeah, all right. I'm familiar with it now.
Yeah, so some of those started appearing, and I remember at the time people were kind of confused about that because they're like, wait, are these like actual NTSC copies? But they do apparently work on North American consoles.
Huh.
I could be wrong on some of that. I just remember that, we started seeing some new Xenoblade show up with this additional little label on it. Like Xenoblade has it. I think Kirby Return to Dreamland also had it too. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
I've never heard of that, I don't think, until you brought it up.
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't really remember it.
I was fairly out of the loop at the time with that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, I was in the loop a bit on like the whole video game scene in general, but I guess I wasn't catching as much of the behind the scenes, like what was going on with the Wii stuff, other than stuff that was just mentioned in magazines and such.
I just posted a picture of it.
Gotcha.
Let's take a look. Yeah.
Hold on, let me go see this.
Oh, okay. No, I've never seen that sticker.
Yep, that's a sticker.
Yeah, and I've seen those actually show up in North American GameStops as well. So I don't know what the full story about that is, but that also exists.
Featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series. What?
New funky mode.
Anyway, sticker joke done.
Yeah, and another reason people were suspecting that the copies of GameStop were getting more reprint was because the box was different. The inside, I think. What is it? I think the reprinted Wii games just have a Nintendo logo instead of the Wii logo on the inside. Something like that. Or maybe I have it backwards.
I know that was talked about in another episode, but I don't remember which. And I have a cat on my lap now, so I cannot check.
Yes.
Hey, speaking about like little details on the art for the original release of the game, I loved how like the Wii disc had like the hole, like what they had printed over the hole was like where the hole in the Monado is. That was really cool.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that. I also like the reversible cover on the Wii version too.
Yep.
I mostly ended up having, at the time that I got the game, I played it on. I ended up playing it on Wii U because I had not had a Wii U for that long, and I had a mid-shift job where I would get home at like 10 in the evening, and I would just like go off into my room and just kind of like, most people were like going to bed and stuff, and I would just be like, I'm gonna stay up late. It was kind of like my solitary therapeutic session of sitting and playing games while everyone else was asleep. And I gotta say, Xenoblade Chronicles was great for that.
Yeah, I'm sure
that it was.
It had a vibe that nothing else I played during those sessions just like did. It did a lot for me. It did a lot for like my mental state at the time.
Going to bed game.
All right, so enough about like. I guess we can get into the next topic. Like enough about the release of it, but what did you guys think about it when you just put it into your Wii for the first time?
I didn't really have too many games on the Wii. Like, I think it was that and some hunting games that I had bought for my dad. So if anyone needs a lot of Cabela hunting games for the Wii, let me know.
On
Again,
that
I
note, next time I see any Madden games or anything like that that's a year older, I'm going to be like, look, everybody, a vintage game.
I get some vintage Cabela hunting games.
I never played it on the Wii. Again, females shouldn't be playing this game.
Yes,
you
yes,
want
I
to
know.
know.
Yes. So when I was watching my brother play it, I was actually very mesmerized by just the story. Like not the music. I'll talk about later in B's Corner. I'll tell you about the music, but just the story of it. Like forget about the graphics, just the story of. There was a part about Zanza. Like I was like, this is a movie to me. I was glued to the screen, and every time he would go off and he had his own house, and I, would pop over again. And I'd be like, okay, what did I miss? He's like, oh, it's too complicated. I won't explain to you. I'm like, no. Tell me what I missed so I can watch the next part. Like I was glued to the story, and I gravitate towards those RPGs that have a strong storyline. And that's why I gravitated to watching it on the Wii.
It's too complicated. There's too many. You go into a fight and you have to like scroll over and press a button to make a decision. That's too hard. No,
Women can't press buttons. Are
Yeah,
you
fuck
insane?
that.
No, they
What's
were.
next? You're gonna say that they can
tell me
vote?
that more my style would be, say Final Fantasy games, which are like the turn-based combat system, which drives me up the wall and through the roof. Because it's slower paced and you would understand it more. Oh, no. Give me action any day.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know.
yeah, when I played Xenoblade, I mean, to kind of back up a little bit, because I remember also watching the Monado Beginning of the World trailer and like, it looks okay. And then like right afterwards, I heard, oh, it's by Monolith Soft. I'm like, Monolith Soft, the creators of my favorite video game series, Xenosaga? Okay, you have my attention. So then, yeah, when I imported the game, and asked a friend to hack my Wii, I was very eager to play it. And then when I actually did get around to playing it, I first of all was amazed just how the Wii could handle those environments. Like I was unimpressed by the character models, because I feel like especially Xenos Episode 3 had like such really good character models, but the environments just really impressed me for a Wii game at that time.
That was like a big thing for me. I've always been bigger with video games. Like I love a good story. I highly appreciate like good gameplay as well, but sometimes a game, just like the world, can sell me. Like the overall vibe, the environment, the setting, all that stuff is like huge. And I kind of felt like whenever I first booted that game up, I was, working that mid shift. It was like a dead end job. I felt like I was kind of in a rut. And that game was kind of like a highlight that was, like, I hate to go into like, oh, it was escapism, but it really was for me. Like, it really worked for me, especially at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can absolutely see that. I can absolutely see how that game would be escapism for anyone.
Yeah,
and it just being like, I was trying to get more into RPGs because I wasn't usually as into those. Like in the past, I didn't grow up with them as much, other than the select few that I mentioned earlier. Your Pokemons and your Paper Marios and all. But I just like heard about this one, and I heard about a few of these others, and that was kind of like my gateway drug into more of them because of how much that world compelled me and just how much everything about it did. And I've developed a taste for a lot more of them than I probably would have given a chance before because of that game.
Yeah, and around the same time too, I was playing World of Warcraft, and it reminded me a lot like that, especially with the combat system.
Which is one place where I don't connect because I did not like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about my addiction. I had a problem with World of Warcraft, a legit addiction. That's for another day.
I like to watch my friend play World of Warcraft a bit because there were things about it that were kind of cool, but I could not stand playing it. There was something about the gameplay feel that I can't completely put my finger on that I just did not like. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But it's just, I only bring it up because it's funny that people compare it. and I get why, but yeah, completely different to me.
Yeah. So for me, at the time when it came out, I was a sophomore in college, and I was going through what was quite possibly the most difficult and stressful school year of my life. It was really, 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 really bad. Everything was going wrong for me. In school, also emotionally, I just was a mess. And the game came out on, what was it, April 6th. And that day is kind of I'm not going to get into it now, but that day is kind of significant for me for a personal reason.
It's
And
also National Tartan Day. Sorry.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, I eventually got to play the game when I came home from college for the weekend, and I turned the game on, and I saw that title screen, and I just remember watching it and being mesmerized by it. And then I actually started the game, and it hooked me right away. And I saw Shulk, and Shulk really reminded me of myself in some ways. And then some things happened in the game, and I basically turned the game off. I was like, okay, this game's really good. I want to get through this game. I want to get through the rest of this school year so that I could spend my summer playing this. And then after that, I came back to school because I had like finals not too long after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to school, got through my finals. I was beyond stressed out for those finals, but I ended up passing. And then I spent the rest of the summer just playing the game. And I know Nick mentioned that, like, it was like escape for him. For me, it was less of an escape and more of just a way for me to just think about myself and my life up to that point, and think about the mistakes I made, think about my achievements. A lot of Shulk's strengths, I kind of share some of them, and I also share some of his flaws as well. And seeing him go through that journey, it felt like I was going through the journey with him. And by the end of it, it really made me realize I could change my life. I can change the future.
Yeah.
I could do better for myself. Like, it's not too late it's never too late to give yourself a better future. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I felt like my life is gonna be over. Like, I am going down a horrible path right now. At the time, it was bad. But playing through that game, and it gave me a lot of messages that I really needed to hear at the time, and it just helped me kind of have a more positive outlook on my own life, and that led to me making better decisions for myself and ultimately getting myself out of that rut. So when I think of like the 10-year anniversary of Xenoblade coming out, I think of that's 10 years since I got through what was probably the hardest period of my life. Even to this day, nothing I've faced was more difficult than what I was facing back then, both physically and emotionally. Mm-hmm. So that's why this game is like, think of that as 10 years. I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is insane. I can't believe it's been 10 years, and what a 10 years it's been. Yeah. And after I played Xenoblade, that's actually when I joined Operation Rainfall. Even though I'd been following them, I actually started writing for them after I played Xenoblade. And that was a really good period of my life where doors started opening for me. I started getting better opportunities. Mm-hmm. And I was starting to dress a little bit better, look a little bit better, because believe me, it was bad back then. Like, I had so many terrible habits that I was slowly kicking. And yeah, it was watching Shulk go through what he did, and it just gave me the motivation to move on. And that's why it means a lot to me.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure not even close to the same degree in a lot of ways, but I could say, I guess I could add that something kind of similar for me in just the way that whenever I had started that game, I was pretty fresh out of college, and I was kind of like in that post-college rut where I'm still trying to like find my footing and like find something good, but still in like dead-end job. And so it was also kind of like something to get me thinking from, and like get me away from like where I was just like financially and in my career and just things like that. So in that way, I could say it was like somewhat similar in like influence in some ways as well. Especially like the story does like really lend to like helping you believe that, like, you can turn your life around, and proving to you, rather, not even just helping you, but
exactly. You're literally doing it in every fight.
It was like even more than that in some ways, just because like the other things, just like the music and the imagery also would just like work so well in tandem with that. Like I remember nights I would get home from work, be like really tired but not ready to go to bed yet, and I would just turn that game on, and instead of starting the game up, I would just watch the title screen and listen to the music for like 10 minutes or more, it just depending on the night and sometimes how rough it was. So it got me through a lot. In some ways,
it's something that like I'll never forget. Like hearing Setsuna Amar for the first time, when the moment I made it into Gore Plains and seeing this gigantic world on the Wii and just being blown away that the Wii can even run this, I'm like, this looks so cool.
I cannot believe how big it was.
I couldn't either. And honestly, I know we were talking about how like it looked like trash. I think it looks fine. The environments look great. The character models, those are a little rough in some spots. But the worlds themselves, I think those look great even on the Wii. Setsuna Amar still looks gorgeous. Gore Plains still looks great. Arid Sea, it's still beautiful.
Yeah, I should probably clarify my comments earlier. When I said I was looking on the 3DS and I said that about the game, I was strictly speaking about character models.
Yeah, but I'll also say that I don't
see a lot of the environments. So.
I'll also say that I don't think the 3DS does the game justice for the simple fact that it's a small screen. Because Xenoblade to me is the kind of game you want a big screen. You want that big experience. You're in this giant world, so you want it on a bigger screen, right? You really want to feel like, holy crap, I'm in this world, and it's great. It's like it got to a point where the music was so cool to me. Like when this was the moment where I really fell in love with the game. When I got to my first unique monster and that battle theme started. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is pretty good. I like this. Oh, that's not bad. And then that part comes in where it's all like, din, 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 din. Oh my God. That was the moment where I was like, yep, this is the game for me. I'm loving this one. And like ever since, every time I go to a unique monster, I had a thing where I would always crank up the volume. Like as soon as I'm walking up to it, I'm like, yep, unique monster. Where's that remote? Volume going up. And then I'm blasting that theme. And I think I said in a previous episode that like for a while, like that was basically my theme. I would always play that song because it always got me pumped up. It always got me thinking in a more rational way. So oftentimes if I had something that I need to do and I need to use my head, I would play that song and it would help me get through whatever I was working on.
I'm going to say I actually liked the character models. I thought it was like... It was interesting to have something look so painterly. I liked it. It was different. But I understand why a lot of people didn't like them, but I'm going to just come out and say I liked them.
And that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, especially like at the time, they were fine. I remember I was thinking on this, and there were you saw this a lot back then in magazines and stuff, but it was like, oh, this looks really good for a Wii game. Yep. And like I remember that about like Monster Hunter Tri, which was like my first Monster Hunter. But whenever I went to that game later, after having played Monster Hunter Tri and things like that, I was like, this game is doing a lot. Like environments, because in Monster Hunter Tri, they were like all separated into zones and things like that. And it looked pretty good, but I was surprised at how good Xenoblade looked, especially for like how big the environments were without like cutting out anything else. Like I was like, yeah, this may not be in every way graphically the best, but like it's got an art style that really works for it, and it's a really good looking game.
There's another really like graphical powerhouse of a game on the Wii, and that's Metroid Prime 3. People always seem to forget that like even by today's standards, in my opinion, the Prime games still look fantastic and they run fantastic, and they're very pretty games. So like when people say, oh, it looks good for a Nintendo game, I get so mad whenever I hear that, because just because the graphics aren't photorealistic and like hyper resolution or anything like that doesn't mean that the games can't be visually stunning in their own way. I'm sure that if I had gotten to see Satoral Marsh at night on the Wii, I probably would have been completely blown away by it. And same thing with the Aranth Sea. I'm sure that like both of those locations were just visually breathtaking on the Wii. And depending on who the developer is, you can absolutely make a really gorgeous scenery with with that kind of hardware. It's within the realm of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Mario Galaxy wasn't a joke. That game looked insanely good.
Yeah, it still does.
And it still does. Yeah.
I will always say that having a style is way better than trying for realism.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mega Man Legends looks great, and because it has such a unique style, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, so does Jet Set Radio. They hold up. Wind Waker. I mean,
Yeah.
I love Wind Waker.
I like that expression, Robin. Having a style is more important. I agree with that completely.
Mm-hmm.
Because
and it's also pretty cool with like some of those older games because of limitations. They have to be a bit more creative. Like to use Mega Man Legends as an example, there are some really crazy tricks they use in that game to get the effects that they got. Like right down to the way the lips move.
Oh, I love the older like 3D models where they just use like textures and stuff to make different facial expressions. That's just like that almost feels like a lost art in some way.
Yeah, they did some really crazy and clever tricks with that.
But it's like why, Final Fantasy VII Remake kind of looks better than Spirits Within. It's like they said, hey, realism doesn't actually look good or hold up. Let's go for stylized.
Yeah. And like you want to talk about tricks to get things to look really pretty. Super Mario Sunshine, the water texture looks fantastic, even by today's standards, in my opinion. But if you like really look at it, you could kind of like see how they did it, where I forget exactly what it was, but like if you like really closely examine it, you can kind of just like see that it's just like a plain color on the bottom with like a fancy like texture on the top, and it's just it's gorgeous. The water is very pretty in that game. And yeah, because of technical limitations, like game developers and companies, they got creative and were able to pull off some really amazing, tricks and illusions. It's kind of like how they managed to make the Tyrannosaurus and the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park look so incredibly realistic and good, for the time period that the original movie was made.
Well, some of that was practical effects, which always look really good, and we need to do more of them because that's a unionized field and people should actually be paid for their labor.
Breathe. But yes.
Not that I hate the Hollywood industry or anything.
So to bring this into, I guess I should ask if you were done with your anecdote there first, but
oh yeah, no,
I was going to say to the thing about like the cool little tricks like that. Xenoblade Chronicles did a really cool one too, with how it would do things like it would render like the whole field, but like within like a circle around your character. If you looked really close, you could. Well, you didn't have to look that close, but there was a draw distance on all the little grass textures, which was cool. And the same was like for the trees. When you got close to the trees, they would become 3D models. But before that, they were just like a texture, like a flat texture in the background until you got within range of them, which was like noticeable if you like paid enough attention, but like a really cool trick to get it all to work together.
Yeah, She Says has a good video on Xenoblade on the Wii.
Oh yeah, I love Boundary Break. That is a good series.
Yeah, he's got an episode. We could link to that on the off chance somehow somebody knows us but not Boundary Break.
I can put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
I
yeah.
have never heard of them, so.
Oh, okay.
They are well. He has a really cool YouTube channel.
Yeah, he just kind of shows out about secrets in video games to like discuss game development.
Yeah.
I like his April Fool's episodes; they're silly. But back on the topic of Xenoblade.
Yes.
I didn't actually have a segue. I just thought if I said that, then somebody would go, "You're right. I wanted to talk."
Well, are we ready to move on to the legacy that it's left behind?
Mm-hmm. I mean, so it would, according to VG charts at least, it would go on to sell better in the West than it did in Japan. And, total worldwide sales of the Wii version of Xenoblade seem to come just short of 1 million, which is kind of nice, considering how the release was so weird in North America.
Mm-hmm.
But it is difficult to find out exactly how well it did at launch because I believe the numbers were not included in some of the MPD reports. So it's kind of hard to tell what numbers were there. I think someone said that pre-order copies were at around 200 to 300K, but I don't have a source for that, so I'm not going to claim that as fact.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I think it's interesting that ever since Xenoblade, you kind of started to see more JRPGs take inspiration from it.
Mm-hmm.
You got those big worlds that aren't necessarily open world, but they are giant. If you look at some Tales games, you can definitely see the Xenoblade DNA in that, or the little collectibles on the field. You ever play Berseria? You get the little balls that you can collect on the world. That's kind of like in Xenoblade.
Mm-hmm.
There was a post a while back where somebody compared Xenoblade to other JRPGs, and they were saying you could totally see the inspiration they took from it.
See, that's funny to me because I have been playing many JRPGs and action games. When I played Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, I saw something that was kind of unique. So the games, at least that I have been playing, didn't seem to take too much from it, but I would absolutely believe that this game had a large enough impact that it directly influenced other works. It's just that for whatever reason, when I played it for the first time, it seemed to be this totally new thing to me.
Here we go. Here's one of the tweets. It wasn't the tweet I'm thinking of, but another one that still kind of illustrates the point I'm trying to make.
Can you describe it to the audience?
Just the way the camera's positioned behind the character, and you get that giant view of a massive open world, and you got the little map. And
I mean, it's still loading for me.
Oh my gosh!
No, I see it.
One of the screenshots is Xenoblade X.
Yeah.
One of the screenshots is Breath of the Wild.
Wait, Xenoblade influenced Xenoblade. You don't tell me.
Oh, and
Yeah,
Nier.
this game did come out
what?
at a time when this big more open world with just where you could see just everything that wasn't as big a thing for sure.
Now that you posted this tweet, I'd like to amend my previous statement. Nier Automata pulls a lot from Xenoblade when I think about it.
You're right. Now that I'm thinking about it, because I've played that recently. You got a point there.
And I think we had either said on the podcast or maybe, during one of our voice chats that there's a ton of overlap between Nier and Xeno fans. If you like one, there's a pretty good chance you like the other.
I can see that. I can absolutely see that.
Yeah.
I would say I prefer the gameplay in Nier a little bit more, but that's just a me thing. But I could definitely see the overlap between those two games and how
thematically it's because we're all miserable. No, I'm kidding.
It is a man.
I like the top. I like the top reply, which is where he replies to himself and says, "Damn, I almost forgot the OG," and it's the Windows XP background. That's
Well,
great.
now I feel vintage.
Yeah, that's some vintage shit right there.
Slap a high price tag on yourself.
Uh, what I find interesting though is that one of the screenshots that this Twitter account posted is the last one is Super Smash Brothers, and I'm confused. Like,
I think it's more about like the scale of the scenery in the background.
okay.
You didn't see that as much in Smash Brothers before that one, I guess, is what they're trying to say.
Okay. All right. Now I see that.
So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Xenoblades 1, his legacy stretches beyond just the first game because it's also kind of made some appearances in other games, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, for one, you have the Shulk amiibo, which is compatible in a few games.
Mhm.
Yes.
Took me forever to find one.
I mean, if you still bang your action figures together, it's that game too. It's a game with
That's my favorite game.
my favorite game, banging action figures together.
I can tell it's my favorite game because that's basically the appeal of Mortal Kombat and Guilty Gear. Both of them are just, what if I banged my action figures together?
I mean, yeah, I'm right there with you.
I mean, wasn't that the premise of the first Smash Bros?
Yeah.
What if I banged my action figures together?
Yeah.
It's a good premise. It's how you make a fighting game.
Not to go too much into that, but I did like it better when they were like little puppet doll things instead of trophies in Smash Brothers. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yep. But yeah, Xenoblade, if you have the Shulk amiibo, you can use it in Mario Maker and you can play as Shulk, quote unquote,
With his Japanese voice.
with his
Yeah, I did
Japanese
that.
voice.
So my brother and I have had this thing where one of us would say, "Hey, do you want thing?" and the other one would say, "No, I don't want that." So that's how I ended up with Mario Maker. And yeah, that's about the most joy I got. I was just like, I'm just gonna be Shulk. Yay, I'm Shulk doing a Mario.
I love Super Shulky Omega.
Yeah. And it's
I
That in
could
the wrong
not
spot, I did.
get enough of Mario Maker 1. I loved the crap out of that. And I loved the I think I even used the Shulk thingy for one of my levels. I don't remember though. That feels like a lifetime ago.
Oh, I remember the voice recording for sound effects feature in that first one.
Yeah.
Actually, the fun game that my brother and I played where we got each other things that the other one didn't want is how I ended up with the Wii. He's like, "Do you want the Wii?" And I'm like, "I don't know. There really aren't any games that I'm interested in." And he's like, "Okay, here you go." I'm like, "Thanks."
I just had a memory come back to me of a level my brother made in Mario Maker 1 that we could definitely never have uploaded. He recorded some things.
enough said. So yeah, other than Mario Maker, you can also use that amiibo in Yoshi's Woolly World. It make Yoshi look like Shulk.
I
really?
did
I
not
didn't know
this.
Oh, I'm gonna have to try it.
I want
Now
to
I
see
really
a
wanna
picture
try
of
that.
this.
I
think
didn't
I
know
saw
that
a
either.
Screenshot of that on Twitter.
I'm gonna have to try it. I have to
Yeah.
first find my amiibo.
Because
And then,
that
like-
sounds adorable.
But I will say, that reminds me, one time I actually met a cosplayer that had a Shulk cosplay, but they had like crocheted the whole thing, and I was like, what the hell?
What?
That was it. It was
it
insane.
No, but Shulk is on my never-ending I would like to cosplay list. So maybe in a year or two, you might see one.
Nice.
Cool. And now you know you can just crochet the whole thing.
That
Cool.
was like as much time as that takes to do. That was like, this is the most underappreciated cosplay here.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, it was really funny. I remember I had a friend at the time. I commissioned him to make a Monado for me. And I still have it. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I
And
want a 3D print one so bad.
and I remember going to Anime Next at the time, and I had it with me. And you know, of course, a lot of people were just going, "Oh, I'm really feeling it." But I remember But I remember somebody asked me, "Did you play Xenoblade?" And I'm like, I'm like, no, I never played it. That's the reason why I'm carrying this Minato.
What are video? Sorry, I'm a girl.
Yeah, I'm actually a girl. What the fuck are you talking about?
As we know, girls cannot play Xenoblade.
Apparently, girls cannot play Xenoblade.
Yeah, girls cannot play Xenoblade. They can't play games or anything. Man, I think that's so freaking ridiculous. Like, as
That's
a
why I
kid,
keep bringing it up because it's so fucking funny.
I have
tell you.
another story when we talk about X at some point. I'll bring up my story about X.
yeah, it's insane.
Man, I'm ready for that one already.
And I hate it because I know that's like not even an uncommon story. Like, I don't know, speaking personally, if growing up I knew a girl that was like super into RPGs, I would have loved to have had that, but I guess that's why they weren't into it, because people kept saying they can't play them. Great.
Let's just ask the Tales of fandom.
Yeah, right? Or the Zelda fandom.
Who the fuck is writing all this fan fiction then?
Alright, anyways. Yeah, Shulk was also in Smash 4, which was great. I remember that trailer was insane. And what was cool about that was before that trailer was revealed, I remember somebody leaked, I think, an ESRB video that had Shulk doing air slash, and a lot of people were like wondering, like, "Oh, wait, is that Adam Howden? Like, what is this?" And when they announced it, I remember being so happy. I was like rewatching the trailer so many times, and just Smash 4 was just so cool because Shulk was in it and Mega Man was in it. So I was just like, dude, like, you got two of my favorite games in one. That's amazing.
When they announced Pyra and Mithra for Smash Ultimate, that was really cool for me. And that was someone who's never even played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but I was just happy to see the series getting more rep in what is far and away one of my favorite games ever made. When Shulk was dropped for Smash 4, I was like, oh, hey, it's that guy from that game that I missed from like 10 years ago or whatever. But that's one of the reasons it's really weird. Smash is one of the reasons why my reaction to Xenoblade on the 3DS was as pungent as it was, which was Smash made Shulk look really, really, really pretty, and I really liked the art direction. So when Xenoblade Chronicles was coming to the 3DS, I was thinking about it. Betsy picks it up, and then I see it. I'm like, wait, that's Shulk? I was like,
He was painterly. He was a cool watercolor boy.
Yeah,
it was just,
Y'all are cowards.
It was, again, it was very jarring to see such a difference in art style.
That said, I do remember when Definitive Edition was like announced, and there were screenshots, and someone made a tweet going like, "Ugh, I can't believe that they made everybody so pretty. What, we can't have ugly characters anymore? Why are Dixon and Umkar so pretty?" And I'm like, "That's on you, buddy."
And I was just like, "Get me the collector's edition and get me it now."
I remember that when Definitive Edition was announced, there was all of this discourse. No, they made the game too anime. And I was
because it wasn't an anime before. Before it was basically Die Hard.
Now that not now that I think of it, I always thought of like the original Xenoblade Chronicles as having like a not just like a watercolor style, but like the way the faces were almost like chiseled looking, kind of reminded me of paper mache. I do like that about that.
I do think that the new style definitely made the expressions much nicer.
Oh, for sure.
Without a
I
doubt
agree.
nicer. I'm just saying that I didn't dislike the original. I know that's
Yeah,
my hot
It's a good
take. I
style.
think the original looked okay.
It was a good style. Definitive Edition definitely made the facial expressions more readable and such,
Yes.
and I do really, really like the Definitive Edition art style as well. But I never disliked the original art style either.
Well, I mean, okay, so this is technically not official, but somebody just posted in our Discord that there is a Shulk mod for Guilty Gear Strive.
Hell yeah.
Who does he replace?
I didn't look that far into it, but
It's
I just
Kai.
saw it.
Probably Kai.
But yeah, there's that. what else is here for the Shulk? Or actually, this isn't even Shulk. Yeah, Project Cross Zone, which had Fiora in the second game.
Yes,
Yep.
she was paired up with Cosmos.
It was really interesting because, like, you don't think of their designs being that similar, but in there you're like, oh yeah, I see the similarities.
It's also like, oh, they're pairing a Xenosaga and a Xenoblade character together. That's
Yeah.
interesting, and they had interesting banter, and it was a game something of its own that I won't talk too deeply about, but yeah, it was a fun little crossover.
Yeah, I'm
A
gonna
fun
play
little
those games
cross
soon.
zone.
Oh, Justin, when you do, well, I'm just going to say this now so I don't forget about it. When you do play those games, talk to Matt about them because he's been playing them for years. He loves those games.
I would love to play those too sometime. Oh.
Yeah, and then where else did Shulk appear? He also appeared in Xenoblade 2 in the DLC.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Shulk shows up there, and then we even got Future Connected, like the little bonus episode. After
Have you played that yet, Ant? I say, forgetting that I have a pin in my mouth and therefore dropping it dangerously. I'm safe.
Good.
Your toe didn't get inked.
I said pin, not pen.
Oh, sorry.
Also, wasn't the Shulk amiibo also compatible in Xenoblade 3DS? I think.
Yes.
Yes, it is. With my cursed game cartridge.
What,
So you got like tokens for the music mode or something like that?
Yes. I believe that's correct.
Very good.
All right, can I jump in here?
No.
Yes, it is about that time for B's Corner.
Well, we all touched a little bit on everything that was in my B's Corner on the document, except one thing. And I think this ties in nicely with the legacy is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Video Games Live.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So Video Games Live, if in case you don't know what it is, listeners, I should say, imagine a rock concert and a full orchestra playing video game music plus light show. So it was pretty cool. It was run by Tommy Tallarico, and if you have heard that name before, he was the CEO of Intellivision.
Yeah, wasn't he doing the Amico?
That's correct. Yeah, that's what he's doing. He stepped away from Video Games Live to do that. But anyway, I digress.
That one. Sorry, go
on. Because with the Xenoblade Chronicles soundtrack, Video Games Live had a couple of Kickstarter campaigns, and they did ask as one of the stretch goals on level 5. There were only 6 released. If the backer's choice could vote for a series, and that would be a bonus track on level 5. And the Xeno Series one with Blade coming out on top. And then there was another. I'd have to dig through my emails just to get the poll results. But the top voted backer's choice song that everyone wanted was Gara Plains to be reorchestrated by Video Games Live and played. Now, if you haven't heard it, I encourage you to, because it is beautiful. There's like a guitar solo, there's a piano solo, there's even a full choir that sings in it. Just Gara Plains, top voted in 2016 for Video Games Live. But the whole, like, all of the soundtrack of any Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or 2, but since we're talking about 1, is just, you go there and it's memorable. And that's what I truly appreciate about this game, is the soundtrack alone. Like, you can listen to it and you know the vibe of the place. I think someone mentioned about the battle music, how the battle's going to be, and just the composer did everything right. You get some video games where you're like, music sucks, but everything was done right, and it was so memorable that backers wanted this to be recomposed and put into a Video Games Live album. So that was my plug there. So go listen to it.
Nice.
Speaking of the music, what are some of people's favorite tracks? Because I was
Dark
listening to the
Flames.
soundtrack earlier, specifically because I felt that this question would inevitably be asked, and then it wasn't, so I had to ask it.
All right. Well, I'm happy you asked because, first of all, having to pick one track is like asking a parent to pick their favorite child.
Fortunately, I said some of.
But if
You're
I
allowed to
had to pick one, I would probably say the Aerith Sea at Night in Definitive Edition. When I did my Definitive Edition playthrough, I played. There were two options. You can have battle music, and you can have like environment music, and you can like alternate. I had my settings at the new version for environment music, and then the classic for battle music. And Aerith Sea at Night would probably be my favorite track in the game because it really was like just that moving to me, that to elicit that kind of like emotional response. But if I could also pick a battle song, it would probably be, the one that I would imagine most people would pick, which is "You Will Know Our Names."
Yeah, I agree. I also jumping on that one. That is one of my favorites, and obviously Garrett Plains. That was actually my ringtone when I had my first smartphone. That was my ringtone.
Nice.
Yeah. And then when my phone rang, no one knew what it was except me. But that's my own problem. Yeah, I also liked Aerith Sea, and I also didn't mind like the name's escaping me. Central Factory. I didn't mind that either.
Yeah.
know that one of my favorite tracks is Engaging the Enemy, which is kind of like the dramatic one. I liked really anything
Yeah.
that had like choral in the background, like a chorus in the background.
Engaging the Enemy is a really good one.
Yeah, Engage the Enemy is good. The Godslaying Sword, really good. Like, honestly, like I kept looking over at the names of every track. I was like, wait, this one's good. What's this one?
Mhm.
Okay, and this one's good. What's this one? And this one's good. What's this one?
Yeah. So for me, to not use the battle themes, I would say it's actually Refugee Camp.
Oh, okay.
I love that song. It's so nice, and like you don't even hear it for that long, but it's really beautiful and really calming.
What would your favorite battle track be?
Mine is the one that plays on the Mechonis, personally.
Mechanical Rhythm?
Mechanical Rhythm's a really good
that
one.
one
I do love
That
that
one's
one.
really great. I also really like the theme that plays in Mechonis where you're spotted
Oh,
and get that like really fast paced drum and beat going on. It's
yeah.
great.
Yep.
But actually, my favorite song in Definitive Edition would probably be Agnarithia. I really like that arrangement for it.
Oh yeah, that was gorgeous.
Yeah, that was good.
Because I felt like that really like drove home what was going on there. It's like I always called it beautifully haunting.
Agnarithia
That's
was the capital city of Mechonis, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I remember things.
Agnarithia.
But yeah, that's such a good one. And Engage the Enemy has always been a song that has stuck out to me. And when that played for the first time, that was a moment that like really hit particularly close to home for me. And yeah, that scene, I think about that scene all the time. It like I still get chills from hearing that song. And I like to play that song a lot. Like if I'm ever feeling down, I like to play that song because I don't know, it just kind of motivates me to just get back up and do better.
And if I'm ever in the car, like I have a USB stick with all Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2,
Oh,
and
yeah.
X on my USB stick in the car. When I'm sick of listening to a radio, I just flip to USB. I'm like, yep, this is good.
Very nice. Tyler, how about you? Favorite songs?
Oh, well, my favorite's probably Satoral Marsh at Night. I remember,
Very valid one.
yeah, I remember like finding like a 20-minute loop of that song and just chilling with it. It's calming.
not to be the one up guy, but
I found it when hours you.
Nope. When I first heard Satoral Marsh, and that was a close one, by the way. You choosing between Aerith Sea and Satoral Marsh was very difficult, but I went with Aerith Sea because of what it made me feel at the time of me hearing it for the first time. But Satoral Marsh at night, when I got to that point of the game, I thought that the music was hauntingly beautiful. The next day at work, I listened to just that song for 8 hours, the entire shift.
That's so cool,
and that's better than
I never got tired of it.
I think like Xenoblade is the first game now that I've ever experienced that has a distinct day versus night track.
Yep.
And I do appreciate that.
It's actually not the first game that I've ever heard that in, but it's the first game where like the day and night tracks really had an impact on me. The closest game to that is Goemon's Great Adventure. That actually has some really great night tracks too. But like, yeah, the Xenoblade ones, I think about those all the time. And in the chat, I put in some lyrics to Satoral Marsh that I heard in the comment section on YouTube once, and it's ruined the song for me.
So you want to ruin the song for the rest of us? Geez.
Yes.
Sure. I ruined Satoral Marsh for myself with a fanfic I'll tell you all about later.
Sorry.
But Satoral Marsh is really great. That is definitely a highlight for that game in general.
And it's a shame
the lyrics being he's still a tuna. Just like
you gotta sing it the way they say it in the song, though.
He's still a tuna. Still a tuna. You're welcome, audience.
Thank you.
On 2 counts.
Well done.
Thank you.
I feel like it's kind of a shame because comparatively, you're in Satoral Marsh much less than you're in like most of the other locales in the game. I feel like comparatively, like I was in and out of Satoral Marsh like in a night. But
if you're just rushing through the story,
yeah. I mean, like I spent a good amount of time in Satoral Marsh. There's a lot to explore there that isn't like necessary that you can just like go out of your way to find.
And there's a lot of bonus quests too that bring you back there.
Yeah, I feel like you don't really like your experience with the game is very atypical because I don't think most people were just like, I gotta get through it.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's more than fair.
So, Nick, did you say your favorite tracks?
Nope. But I'll warn you. I've come up with some alternative ones because my favorite tracks are the boring answers. Because
what answer is boring?
Because the title track is one of them. And
no, see, that's beautiful too.
And Guar Plain is also one of them. But
that's one of mine. So there you go.
But like that, honestly, Guar Plain is probably the one that's the day theme is probably the one that sticks with me the most. But I have some other things. My favorite battle theme is actually Zanza the Divine, which probably isn't that big of a shocker either.
Yeah, that one's very good.
And just as far as like another just field theme that comes to mind that is, I feel less appreciated, but always gave me like a certain vibe that just made me feel like really at ease and comfortable and just was really chill. I really like Frontier Village theme. It's a good theme.
Yeah.
It's a very good one.
Yeah.
It just always made me it's not a lot going, but it works for that village. It's not super hype. It doesn't have like a driving tempo or anything like that like Guar Plain does. It just feels kind of like homey and
well, everything was designed that way.
Yeah.
So I really like that one. That is one that comes to mind off the top of my head of field themes that aren't just like your typical bombastic, we're on an adventure, let's go full throttle kind of thing. That isn't also a night theme, because I mean a lot of them just like, oh, let's just tone it down a bit for night and make things calmer and stuff. And
I will say the area I felt had the worst music was Valak Mountain.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what it sounded like, to be honest with you.
I
want to go out on I want to go at. I'm glad you brought that up because I did not think about that. But there is something about Valak Mountain, especially day theme, that I absolutely love, and it's
me too.
It's because
I
of
do
this.
like the day theme more than the night theme, but I to me it just like if I had to pick a track I didn't like, it's going to be Valak Mountain.
There's this part in the Valak Mountain theme that I absolutely love, and I feel like it's maybe not like the best thing to just like listen to just on its own, but when you're there is a part where that like it almost phases out into like a fuzzy white noise kind of thing, and it feels like it's got this isolationist feel that I feel like I would like totally be in that kind of mood if I were just on this gigantic snowy mountain alone. And I really love that about it. Like,
that's how I feel about that's actually how I feel about the night theme. I actually really like that one. Like going back to what I said before about how when I played this game, I was just kind of deep in thought about myself. When I was on Valak Mountain, especially at night, that's when like that feeling really set in. And
yeah,
I don't know, like the piano with that, it fits so well. Like even nowadays when it snows, I really like to have that on. It sets like a really cool mood.
Do you have fun lyrics for that one?
I don't.
So basically what Justin is saying, Robin, is that you're wrong and you should feel bad.
No, I'm saying that Robin's entitled to his opinions and they're valid.
Yeah, I didn't even say like, hey, this is a bad
thing. I said,
this is my least favorite.
Also, maybe describing it as white noise isn't the right way to do it, but there's this part where like one of the tones in the Valak Mountain music just kind of like fades out into like this almost atmospheric like droning kind of noise in the background, if that's how I could describe it, and it just feels like getting like white blinded, getting lost in like a blizzard or something. It gives it that kind of feel, and it's like really cool when you can do something like that in the music that really just makes like you feel like you're there. So yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at with that.
It's as a whole, I would probably say that Valak Mountain might have been my least favorite part of the game.
Yeah, I didn't like it very much.
Really?
Yeah, okay. I felt like, all right, look, is it beautiful at night like every other area in the game? Absolutely. But when you compare Valak Mountain to places like Aerith Sea and Satoru Marsh and places that you've been already that just completely like just make me zone out from how beautiful they are. Valak Mountains, I think it was because of all the yellow and the crystals and stuff, like all the yellow lights. I'm not a fan of that color. And
yeah, I had the same reaction, right? So it's like, well, this place is cool. It's ice. Oh god, it's yellow. I hate it.
Yeah,
I like the cold snowy feel.
Yellow,
but yeah,
yellow
like I get the
snow,
yellow.
gross.
Piss Mountain? No, I'm kidding.
But
no, I love Valak Mountain. Sorry.
And then listen, and that's totally fine. I'm speaking entirely from my experience with the game. There was also this one part where I had to slide down this like ice slide and jump at particular points in time.
That part was fun.
And otherwise I'd have to like do this long ass walk back to try again. And I remember getting lost on Valak Mountain a lot. And which is saying something because I shouldn't have been getting lost. I had the guiding yellow line to tell me where to go next, but I don't know. I had a rough experience with that area.
I will say in Definitive Edition, where they added that line, Valak that thing got it lost on its own in Valak Mountain. It was like that map is kind of a strangely like structured one, and I just don't feel like the line that showed you where to go, like it isn't that bad because it's like obviously you go downhill, right? But there were some things that line was having like struggling. I was like, oh, is this the better path or is this the better path? I noticed.
Okay, cool. So it wasn't just me who felt like they were like things were getting trippy on that mountain.
I guess that's probably why I liked it more than like Alcamoth, because it's like there were things there. Unlike I don't know, Alcamoth, Have I mentioned lately how much I don't like Alchemoth?
You've mentioned how much you
Yeah.
like
Little
Alchemoth
bit.
about as many times as you enjoy getting stabbed in the foot.
I
I've mentioned them both the same amount of times. Interesting.
I'm
Talk
kind
about
of
getting
mixed on
stabbed in the
Alchemoth
foot.
because it looks really cool, but it does take too long to get around
It is
there.
so
in my opinion.
empty. It's like
It is so empty because I think that there are just not many of those
Hyantia.
Hyantia reproducing.
Well, okay, so in Xenoblade 3, Hyantia need to fuck.
Do they lay eggs? They're birds? I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe someone ate their eggs. Maybe the Telethia ate them. I don't know.
I think they are
That's what I'm
Telethia.
going with.
I remember, like, when I was playing it more recently, Cilantro said, oh, it must be so open because they had to make room for the Telethia. But then I went back with all the Telethia, and I'm like, no, it's still empty, and I still hate it!
But we love Xenoblade. We love
Yes.
Xenoblade.
They need room
I can
for
love Xenoblade and hate Alchemoth at the same time. I can multitask.
They need room
This
for
is true.
airspace traffic in there. That's why it's so big.
That's right.
Because for some reason they need to fly the little
They-
airships around inside of Alchemoth.
Why didn't they just put things in it for me to look at?
It's like the largest like waiting large waiting lobby of
Honestly,
Ouch.
Alchemoth
Sorry,
has some
Sam,
great
sorry.
escalators in it. They kind of needed like those flat ones like they have in airports, though. That would have been
Yes, that would have made me hate it so much less.
You know what?
Anyway, this is our Xenoblade appreciation episode where we hate Alchemoth.
What we really need to do is they need to do what they did with Coconut Mall and take out the escalators and just put in directional like the diagonal lines, because clearly
the next
that would be,
remake
like,
of
a much
Xenoblade,
better-
they'll put go-karts into Alchemoth.
All right,
Please.
hear me out. Xenoblade Chronicles Kart.
I'll take
As
it.
though I wouldn't play that.
I would play a no pawn on a motorcycle. Just saying.
Yeah, driving
I
around
love
the
Xenokart.
mechanics. Take it.
That would be good. Yeah, no, we'd play that. We're all for it.
Or wait. Hear me out. A Mechon is the motorcycle.
No,
I was hoping
The
you were gonna say on a
Monado
go-kart.
the
and I was
Monado
going to
cycle,
Sorry.
agree with you.
people. We got to make the Monado
Sword.
cycle thing.
On a Segway.
I was gonna say that sounds kind of. Oh wait, well it's the Mechon. Never mind.
You know, I think we actually talked about how we wanted a racing game in our mini games episode.
Probably.
So
Yes, we did.
shockingly, we still want a racing game.
See our minigames episode for more
See our mini
ideas.
games episode for more us saying why isn't there a racing game?
Was there any more anything more we want to discuss about either the legacy of Xenoblade or anything else?
Did we
That
all
we-
just kind of like gush about things we liked?
Does
Or
anybody
didn't
else
like?
think that Satoru Marsh feels a little bland during the day?
Bland during
Yes.
the day? Yes.
That's what-
Comparatively,
That's why the night is so special, because it's like, oh, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, and
like
then
I get
boom.
that, but like
I agree with Tyler 100%.
specifically, it is not one of my favorite zones in the game, because as pretty as it is at night, it's just like it's not
That's
enough
fair.
to make up for just like how it's just kind of It
Well,
feels
It does for
skunky
me.
during the day in a way
I-
that I'm just like that's okay.
With
goes
my
for me.
my experience with Xenoblade, it was one of the first games where you think you're like, okay, because I come from a lot of Pokemon background, because you think you're in the right area with the same level bosses and whatnot, and then you see this level 80 some T-Rex swimming around, you're like, oh shit, and it comes after you, it's like, oh fuck, and then it's just like, oh, and that's what I really like. Is watch out
That
where
is-
you're at, because there's always someone who's gonna eat you.
That's true. That's like the
Yep.
quintessential Xenoblade
Fair enough.
experience.
Watch out
that-
for 4 winged birds and trees. I mean owls. Yep.
I love that. I love that in Gower Plain, there's a
Yes.
big monkey walking around.
He's just randomly walking
Just
around,
walking
and
around,
then he will
and the
eat
monkey
you for
is
breakfast.
stronger than the final boss.
Yep.
Big monkey versus who would win in a fight? A god superior being who is capable of devouring all life upon its back, or big monkey?
Monkey.
There was one.
Big monkey.
There was one quest where you had to go. It was in Gara Plains, and you had to go where there were spiders to collect an item. So you go in there to the spider. You're level like 40. Spiders are level like 80, and it's like, and run away. Run away! Run away.
Oh man, those spiders are so great when you're suffering from drift on the Switch, because it's like, okay, just tiptoe, and your character's like, what's that? Run? Run? Gotcha! No problem! Zip!
Run
Oh no.
the other way.
Not to mention all the times it's like, alright, let me just collect this item on a cliff, and they're like, jump off the cliff? No, please
Yes,
don't jump,
please
jump
jump
off
off
the cliff! That's been my experience lately, by the way. My drift just got like crazy fucking bad.
And I like with another thing I really enjoyed doing was when you were to open up the maps, you'd see like the places where you were and then the dark area. So for example, like a place like Earth Sea, I went in the water and swam everywhere just so I had the satisfaction of making the map all visible on my side.
Yeah, and then you learn that as long as you get all of the like, areas on the map, you don't have to do that.
I actually did.
I wanted to.
I did a similar thing where I almost swam around the whole map because I was like, "Where is that last?" Because I knew that it would like fill the map automatically if you got all the checkpoints, but I could not find the last one. And I did that, and I finally found that it was like some random coast that I hadn't found.
I did swim around the whole thing because I'm like, I'm downright determined to fill this map.
Oh, I did that my first playthrough. The second time I played it, I was like, nope.
Yup.
Same thing with Alchemoth.
Yeah, I did that with Alchemoth too. Let's walk around and fill the map.
Yeah, the first time I played it, I was like, I'm filling this map manually, and then the second time I was like, nope, not doing. You're not fooling me into looking all over Aerith Sea again.
Yeah, I was not about that. I never did that.
And then the Future Connected, I will admit, I did not enjoy it.
Gasp.
I'm sorry, I did not enjoy.
Wait, you didn't like Future Connected at all?
No.
Oh,
interesting. Tell us about why.
Tell us why. Well, first of all, it was run here and then back there and then over there and then over there and over there. And secondly, like I understand it was more to get the Melia side of things, like understanding her story and where she comes from and why, because she's a mixed blood, like why that's so important and her rise to princess and whatever. But I just thought it was. The game was trying to, especially with those little Nopon things.
The Pawn Specters?
Yeah. It was just trying to extend the game as much as it could by giving you this little tidbit that was really not needed. Like, I thought it was too much.
I mean, I guess that depends on if you found it fun or not, which I did. And also, my cheat answer on the music question is the battle theme from Future Connected.
Okay.
But
I think Future Connected slaps harder than it has any business slapping.
It's really good. It's so fucking good.
I'll be in the minority and didn't like it.
No, that's fine. Honestly, I don't think you're alone there because
like
I think a lot of people went into Future Connected thinking it was going to be a lot more than it was. And I was just like, my expectations are tempered based on what they straight up told us before it came out.
I mean, having played Torna, which was like, you know, the extra part of 2, I had really high hopes for Future Connected and I was let down.
Yeah, there was your mistake.
Sorry, I played the reverse order.
Well, no, I mean, obviously that's the order they came out in, but it's like they had said, look, this isn't really going to be anything that revolutionary.
Well, then when you were all patient enough to listen to my freak out after I finished playing 1 and how 1 and 2 are directly connected. Oh my god! But that's for another day.
No, they're not. Shut up.
No. What are you talking? I don't know.
Nothing. Anyway. I don't know anything. I have not played.
Look, I already knew that
Chronicles
1 and 2 were directly
connected
because the fact that Shulk just shows up at the end in the DLC for 2. Like they show that in the trailer for the DLC.
Yeah, but that's like
Cosmos shows up in 2 as well, so
that's like a special extra mode that's not. I don't know.
Let's not get into that.
We're going on a tangent here.
Yeah. Let's talk about the first game.
I was going to say, anybody liked characters in the first game or no?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I will say
so many of them.
Let me go first.
Okay, sorry, for Future Connected. However, that was the highlight of Future Connected. The Nene and help me out here. Kino. I loved them so much because they were kids of Riki, and then Kino had this whole story about how Riki kind of adopted him. I hated Riki, but I loved those two so much. And then
Man, you're just out here with all the hot
Good.
takes.
I'm hitting the eject button. You're off the podcast.
Sorry. Yeah, I like them. And then I think I share a similar view with, like, I thought Dixon was great, and then he did some shady things, and then I wanted to throw a shoe in his face. I hated the Hyantia because they were sitting on their horse, but otherwise, I like the main characters more or less.
How dare they use
Shulk.
horses?
Shulk was great.
Shulk was a great support character in that.
In Future Connected?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who the hell's Shulk?
Melia and Tyrea were the best characters in that, though.
Absolutely.
They were awesome.
Yeah.
I loved getting to see more of Tyrea in there, and like her actually getting
Oh yeah, that was so
an
good.
arc. That was very nice.
that was alright.
Well, thankfully, we have both a Shulk and a Melia episode you can check out if you want to hear our thoughts on them.
Yes.
But yes, continue, B.
Yeah, no, what's her face? Schultz's friend, the female. I'm drawing a blank. I haven't had
Fiora?
Fiora?
Yes. Sorry. My caffeine is going out the window. I didn't like her so much. I thought she was weak for a female, like, main air quote character. But otherwise, like Melia, she was quite strong. They did a really good job with the bad guys. Like, Zanza wanted to stab him in the eye. Mechonis wanted to stab in the eye until I
All
heard
of Mechonis,
Eagle's sad story. Then I didn't want to stab him in the eye. Yeah, that's it.
So at that point, you leggled the Eggle.
Yes.
Lego.
So yeah,
Can I-
someone else can take over. There's a
I
torch.
just need to cut in here and say this. Imagine being the big bad and your name is Eggle. Like,
But that thigh gap though.
That thigh gap, though.
Ah!
All of the fucking Machina with their thigh gaps.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Was okay, so I wasn't the only one who was staring at that the entire time.
I didn't
course not.
didn't even notice it. I didn't even notice it. Then now Tyler mentions it. Now next time I see it, I'm not going to be able to unsee it. I'm going to.
All y'all need to be bonked. They got faces, you know.
Yeah, buddy, we had, like, my first episode that I appear in, I talk about wanting Vinaya to step on me, and now I need to get bonked. Okay.
We're always
I'm just
bonked.
gonna put this out there. You say Vinaya, but Linata. Come on.
Yeah, you're right,
Come on.
Lenata.
Tomato,
Underappreciated
tomato.
Linata.
My favorite characters on the good guy side was Sharla, and on the bad guy side was Dixon. And it sucks that I have to have Dixon as my favorite bad guy because I liked him a lot more as a good guy. When he turns heel, his likability goes down the tubes.
You know, it's funny, because that's how the main party felt about it, too.
Yeah,
How who felt about it?
The main
The
party.
main party.
Oh,
but
yeah.
but
like,
bad guy
how-
Dixon at least gets a Hulk form, so I mean that's kind of a plus.
They're like, how dare you? But I think at the end of Dixon's life, like, he wanted them to go away so they didn't see him die alone. Like, there was still some humanity in there.
Yeah, and like, I know Robin and I could probably talk for this about hours because we have talked for hours about this, but
And we do have a Dixon episode.
I talked for hours about Dixon.
you've already got it. So you've already got it covered. But then I'll just basically touch on my opinions.
Yeah,
I
no.
wasn't
Yeah.
crazy about his send off or like even at the end his like motivations. Like I feel like
His what?
that was
His
the weakest part of
whomst?
his character was that like his reasoning for turning heel is never really all that clear. He seems to be I want to say he seems reluctant, but he doesn't. I want to say he seems devoted to Zanza, but he doesn't. It's just there's so much that you could probably say about Dixon, and I want them to go back and rewrite it. I want to rewrite, damn it. It wasn't.
Well, once I finish working on all of these
character's
gifts
arc's
I have,
ending is just not satisfying to me. But yeah, that's where I'll stop talking about that. But
And since Dixon's a disciple, the other disciple I actually liked was Alvis. Like I couldn't quite figure out where he was coming from until like the very end, where he said he was a computer, and I'm like, oh my god, I get it, I understand, and I was very excited.
Beep beep boop bop boop beep.
Alvis, what was his name?
Alvis.
Alvis.
Alvin?
Okay. Alvis
And the
was a really cool character. Like from the moment they introduced him, I was like, I was getting like, oh wow, I'm getting like he gave the game kind of like these like almost Final Fantasy vibes, but I really liked the mystery surrounding that character, and if I'm totally honest, I think the whole him being a computer thing, I wasn't crazy about that, but it made sense. It did make sense. I wasn't crazy about it.
It made sense to me because I played the games in reverse.
Yeah, you will get a different experience if you play it in reverse.
Okay.
Nick, did you like characters?
Nick?
Muted?
Nick?
Muted.
Nick!
All right, never mind. Nick doesn't like characters anymore. Tyler, did you like characters?
I liked characters.
Good to know.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Riki. I mean, I'm usually not a huge mascot character fan, but I just kind of liked him and his interactions with like Melia and Shulk and how he's kind of like, and also Donban and but also I liked Melia a lot more. Like those are like my two favorite characters. Because Melia is such a tragic character, but yeah, we talked more about her in our Melia episode, and I also liked Alvis, but though he just reminds me of a slightly meaner version of Chaos from Xenosaga.
He is mean Chaos.
He's mean
He's
Chaos.
sassy Chaos.
Sassy Chaos.
Very much so.
In that,
Sassy
that's
Chaos.
Sassy Chaos is the alternate form of Happy Chaos.
Favorite Guilty Gear character, Sassy Chaos. No, kidding.
Look, it's hard to not make the Guilty Gear reference after I already brought it up.
I know. Well, I was thinking it too, was the funny thing.
all right. Nick, do you want to go on?
Oh, Nick, you're here.
Oh, I thought you said I didn't like characters. That was fine.
Because you weren't responding. So.
I was muted. Anyway.
Well, unmuted yourself!
Look in chat, you'll know why. Anyway. Favorite characters. I really like
Like you were
Dunban.
supposed to warn us.
You could have just talked for another 20 minutes for me. No, I'm kidding.
We did talk!
Not on the
Anyway, this
podcast.
is A+
Anyway,
content.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, I really like Dunban a lot. For a lot, I don't know. He's just. There was a lot of reasons that I like Dunban. I always kind of like the mentor character in a lot of ways, anyway. Like, and he was just like he had a lot of good quotes that really spoke to me. I guess. I always like. I guess, I'm trying to think on which were my favorite because, like, I feel like this is a very well-rounded cast in a lot of ways, and I could say that about a lot of these games. And normally I would go more for like the goofier character like Ryan, but I kind of prefer Dunban as far as like the like all of this goes. Just something about the way he carried himself, and especially like. Because at the start, he goes from being, like, kind of, cocky and such when he has the Monado to just, like, within a year's time is just, like, he's the wise old mentor now.
Because he gave up drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
He never gave up smoking, though.
He never smoked. What are you talking about?
Okay.
But, yeah, I don't know. Out of them, I liked them. I like Melia a lot. Actually, as far as like playable characters go, my two favorites to play as were Sharla and Melia. And I do really like Sharla quite a bit. I do think that there were some places where I felt like I would have preferred they had written some things about her a tiny bit better, but that's not like it's not like too bad. I still really like her as a character. I think that I think Melia is like way up there for me, honestly too. There are definitely some faves. Bad guys, I do, and I want to say I do really like Shulk. I know it's kind of like split. There seems to be people that like either really identify with him or like find him hard to identify with because he does he is like a very different kind of protagonist in some ways. The way he like deals with his anxieties, and some people relate to that or don't, and I'm kind of in the middle on it. I feel like anyway. Bad guys. Favorite bad guys. You know, it's kind of hard not to say Dixon in a lot of ways. Like he feels like he's got a lot more depth than quite a few of them. Just like by nature of who he is. I'm trying to think of oh, you know what? Mumkar's a lot of fun.
Mumkar's fun.
Mumkar's Mumkar is great.
He doesn't
Zort's
shut up.
fun.
Mumkar would have been my pick for favorite villain.
Yeah.
But we weren't going to ask you, so don't wait your turn.
No.
He's got like that grade A slime quality, you know? Like, I love how scummy he is.
Slime ball. Oh,
yeah, that's great.
He never shut up.
Him and
Zord.
Yeah, but like I think like the two complex villains are Eggle and Dixon. If you can even call Eggle a villain, you know.
He was doing it for the wrong reasons, but he truly believed that he needed to, you know, avenge his peoples.
Yeah.
Everyone
I
else
really
must
liked
die because my people have suffered. Yeah.
But as far as like the best, just the best pure selfish like kind of villain, I would definitely say Mumkar is like really, really high quality in that category. He definitely gets like the Ninja Turtles crony villain thing down or something almost, you know. Anyway, I think that's all I got on that.
Now, Justin, would you like to talk about Mumkar?
Yeah, Nick pretty much summed up for me. He's just fun. I don't know, like he leaves a really strong first impression when you see him. He's like, he gives out kind of like a menacing vibe, and I don't know. I just like the way he's just out to mess with Shulk.
Yeah,
his motivation is just fucked unbad.
Yeah.
I would say Zord leaves a pretty strong 5-minute impression, but he's
Yeah.
not as good as Mumkar, in my opinion, on that stuff.
And one thing that boggled me about the game is when they had the face mech on, is like how did they take their intestines out and still survive on water? And I don't understand this.
I think it's sort of implied through that humps
ether?
are
No, I'm
not
kidding.
perfectly analogous to humans.
I know, but as a biology standpoint, I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. But okay.
Well, neither does fucking Zanza's 8-chambered heart.
Yeah, that also did not make much sense, but that's okay. I know it's a sci-fi game kind of.
Well, it runs on whatever the Zanza world logic is, which is kind of there's always this special little thing that you can do is just like, oh, you want to explain anything? Well, that's covered by ether. Ether, everything's made up of ether. It just does this. It just does whatever we need it to because it's, you know.
Because it's ether.
Yeah, because it's ether. It's the lifeblood. It works.
Nanomachines.
Nanomachines, son!
Dang it.
Thank you.
Sorry. That wasn't what I was danging it.
I spoke why I like Dixon as my favorite villain, but I said Charlo was my favorite good guy, right?
Maybe
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
have
pretty
that
sure I
idea.
did.
Yeah.
I like Charla because one, she is the party's healer, and she came in clutch quite a bit. Thank your healers. Thank your healers.
Gay healer.
Second, in my opinion, and this is a shallow reason, I know, but in my opinion, she is the prettiest member of the party. And 3, I really kind of liked the whole big sis thing she had going on with Shulk and Melia and everyone else, and you could see the Rhine Sharla ship coming from a mile away, but like the dynamic between Sharla and Rhine was very enjoyable. Like she enhanced Rhine a lot and Rhine himself is a great character with he's always like doing the best he can as supporting the main character role. And I just really enjoyed their dynamic. My only criticism of Sharla's story is like where she says that Rhine reminds her of Gatto, when Gatto, from what we see of him, is nothing like Rhine.
He seems pretty capable, and then like Rhine is almost like, oh, I'll have to take care of you almost. Even though I will say Rhine is kind of like older brother to Shulk, so I kind of see it in some ways. But...
I mean, we only did see bits and pieces of Godot's.
But none of them gave us Rhine vibes.
No,
yeah,
they
nothing
didn't.
of it. He gave me closer to like some. I don't even know. Like he seemed very strict and capable.
Lieutenant
and
Surge,
not at all like underdog. Yeah.
Like maybe if she said that Dunban reminded her, like okay, I could see that.
I see. The only reason I entertain it is because from what we see of Gatto, that's a thing. But she knows Gatto from well before the story starts and we meet her.
But it's still bad.
So it's entirely possible that at one point Gatto could have been kind of like Rhine, but what we see, the Gatto that we see, is nothing like Rhine.
Well, at least Gatto has a good sense of humor because Jadeface has an attack called Blowjaggy. Which I will bring up again.
I did enjoy Sharla's story as a whole, though, like how she's protecting her colony. She lost Godot. They find him, and then like I kind of like that they did some of that. But yeah,
I like the little hat she could put on her.
I did like the little hat. See, I know you want to cut off in like pretty soon. Should we wrap up?
Yeah,
Justin, do you have any?
I really don't have much to say about the characters. You already know my girl's Melia, love her. In Definitive Edition, I will say that I've grown to like Rhine a lot more. So that's kind of nice. And yeah, I really don't have much else to say about the characters.
Who's your favorite villain, Justin? I need to know.
I already said it was Mumkar.
Oh, that's right. You did. I'm sorry. I was listening. I promise.
No, I was just saying that like I didn't think too much of Rhine when I first played it, but then playing Definitive Edition, I've grown to appreciate Rhine a lot more.
Yeah. Okay. He's really good at pressing buttons you shouldn't press too. That's great.
He's like that younger brother that likes to like do jokes and think he's better than he really is.
I also really didn't like Ricky at first, and Ricky grew on me like a lot. I really like Ricky at the end. Mm-hmm. Tyler, before we wrap up though, I'm curious, who are your favorite characters?
This is awkward. I already said my favorite characters.
You did?
Yeah, I'm the only one who hasn't said anything.
Yeah, Robin, who are your favorite characters?
Dunban.
And Dunban?
Just Dunban.
Also Dunban?
I like Dunban. I'm a Dunban man. I'm a Dunban fan. I'm a Dunban stan. What do you want from me?
So
and listen to that Dunban episode.
Yeah, you're saying you like Dunban?
Yeah, why?
Okay, just curious.
Also, Charlotte's good. Nobody has talked about how Larithia has tons of character and really clear motivation, and I think that's a shame. We should probably talk about that. And now you get to figure out which one of these things is a lie.
And here
I
I
do
thought
like
we had
that.
shit posted
I'm
enough.
pretty
on this
sure we
podcast.
all know which of those is a lie.
Yeah, I like Dunban.
All right. Does anyone have any finishing statements about the Xenoblade 10th anniversary?
Yay!
It was to 10 more!
Let's do
Yeah.
more.
It
More.
is an anniversary very much worth celebrating because this game truly is something special, and the series obviously has more entries in it, and I think it's going to continue to be a series that is truly something remarkable and unique. And I'm very excited to play the second and the third game eventually when it comes out. I have some catching up to do, but I'm going to be making great strides as soon as I put Elden Ring down.
I'd be okay for more Xenoblade Chronicles merch. My desktop
that'd be nice.
has Shulk on it, but I would be okay for more merch. Yes.
Oh yeah, Melia
I actually-
comes out this summer, doesn't she?
I think so.
Yes.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yes.
Shout
I
out to
actually do have a thing to say before we wrap up.
Yes.
I think like a lot of fans will dismiss Xenoblade because it's not as deep as Xenosaga.
Mhm.
Xenosaga commercially was not a success, so after that, it really felt like, oh shit, we're never getting another Xeno game.
Mhm.
And then when Xenoblade came out, it was like, oh fuck, they made another one. And when you finished it, you're like, I finished a game. This game was complete. This was not a fragmented piece. This was not somebody going, oh shit, I ran out of time or money. This was a complete game.
Mhm.
And I don't think enough of the new fans really appreciate how wonderful of a feeling that was.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that puts it above the Saga games for me, because I like that Xenoblade feels like a complete story. It's like, okay, they actually told what they want to told with this.
Mhm.
Yes, and I love all the Xeno games, don't get me wrong. It's just I feel like it gets underrated because it's like, oh, it's not as complicated. I'm like, but you don't understand. This is a thing I can show somebody
honestly,
and get them interested.
I would even argue that Blade is pretty deep. It's just that it's not deep in the ways that people want it to be deep, I think is a problem.
Yeah. I still think there's a lot you could talk about, but that's my piece. I feel like a lot of new fans they didn't have the gap where they felt that there was not going to be another Xeno game.
Yes.
And therefore they can't really appreciate how nice it was when it happened.
The closest they have to that is Xenoblade X, but
yes, we can all mutually feel pain for that one.
As someone who came in on the first Xenoblade, I feel like I appreciated those games going back to them more for because I could see the progression, because I played Xenogears and then the Xenosaga games after I played Blade 1 and 2 and X, So I was like, I definitely, I don't know, I like all of them, but I feel like maybe I had a much deeper appreciation for them because of Xenoblade 1 coming off of that and seeing just the path they went down to get this far.
And if you're like me and played only the second one, please play the first one. You will not be disappointed.
They're both good games.
They are all good games.
Yes.
Honestly, I'm just glad that Blade 1 has held up after all these years. When Definitive Edition was coming out, I was very worried about that.
Yeah. I'm really glad it is too.
So, yeah, hopefully this continues to be a game people talk about years down the line, which I think it will be.
Yes.
Yeah.
See you at the 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
No, 15, and then 20.
Well, then hopefully...
Every 5.
I'm setting the bar high. I'm letting people know that we're going to do a 20th anniversary.
Okay.
Now we got to do it.
Well, hopefully we'll get the Xenogears treatment and have a Xenoblade concert one of these days.
Yeah, that'll be amazing.
Oh, actually, there is a Xenoblade concert that's being it's a joint Xenoblade Undertale concert, but it's in Japan.
What?
And I saw that and I was like, I need to share this with Anthony.
What?
I'm like, why? So he can be mad?
Wait, why would I be mad? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's in Japan.
Oh, well, I mean...
That's the part.
Are there videos?
I don't know. I will go find the tweet and show y'all's, but
Okay.
What? That's an
All right,
interesting
well, we can-
combination. You said Xenoblade and Undertale?
yeah.
Well, I do love both of those things.
Yeah, that's why I was like, oh man, I gotta tell Ant. And then I was like,
Ant!
Ant!
Gotta go tell Ant!
Why would they ever pair two RPGs together in a concert?
No, it's just
Who would do
Finally,
that?
two
it's just-
games.
like of all the RPGs to do in a concert, to mix those two is interesting choice.
Here it is.
But anyway,
Yeah,
Oh.
that is kind of surprising. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap
Anyway.
this episode up.
Wrap this up.
All right, so we'll just go around, and if there's anything you want to plug or share, or anything you're playing, anything like that, just go ahead. Let's start with you, Justin.
Kirby-thon. It
Yes.
starts this weekend, April 2nd.
Which would be last weekend.
Yes, by the time this episode comes out.
and you can catch that
But so
over
for
on
the-
Retro Roulette.
Yeah, it's for the full month of April, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna enjoy the shit out of that. That's gonna be so much fun.
I love
Um,
Kirby.
Well, speaking of that, Ant, you want to kind of go in if there's anything besides the Kirby-thon, or you want to talk about? or-
I will shamelessly plug Retro Roulette. It is
Yeah.
a YouTube/Twitch gaming show where we stream and we play games like every other YouTube channel, and we have a good time. It's basically just video games with friends. You come to watch. You're basically sitting down in the living room while we bullshit and just have a good time playing video games and talk. And we beat the same jokes to the joke of the week. We beat that to death like 50 times. It's good stuff. We have fun with it. And yeah, I would hope that you'd like to come and check us out. We're over at youtube.com/retro roulette or twitch.tv/retro__ roulette. And
I will.
yeah, check
those
us
in the
out
show
there.
notes.
And as far as XenoChat goes, I can't thank you all enough for having me here. This was a fantastic first episode, and I'm looking forward to being able to talk about more as I play more of the games.
Yeah.
Yay.
Awesome.
Raising more Xenoblade fans.
Well, since you just spoke, Nick, how about you?
Like how it sounds like a punishment.
No,
Oh no!
I was referencing our other episode,
Spotlight.
Raising a Xeno fan. I'm playing some games. I guess I can announce this now. I'm going to be part of that Kirby Marathon on my Twitch channel later, which I don't stream on very much lately, but I'm going to get back into that soon. It's Radio Tanuki is the name of the Twitch channel, but I will be streaming Kirby Mass Attack on, what was the day? It was like the 19th or something of April. Let me check. I don't know why that went off.
Yeah, I know. I know it's kind of weird that I'm asking you guys this when we just literally recorded our April Fool's episode
Yep.
like a week ago and asked you.
It was the
same question.
19th.
Oh, April 19th. Okay.
Yeah, it was the 19th. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
I
how
was
about-
mainly hoping that it didn't pick up that background noise that popped up there for a second. But anyway,
It might have, but I'll do something.
I hope that hasn't been picking up my embroidery noises. Those are squeaky.
I
Yeah.
don't think so. But since you spoke, Robin, what are you
Oh,
doing?
no!
What are you doing?
I'm embroidering right now. Bye. That's what I just said. I just told you I was embroidering.
Okay.
It's not news.
Okay, it's news to me.
Since last week, oh man, the events and plans I have made. I own a mansion now. I have my own TV series. I have 30 dogs. All of them are named Bronchitis. I don't know. No, nothing's changed.
Oh, okay.
Nothing's happening.
wow,
I'm doing
that
nothing.
was a bit out of nowhere.
All of my dogs?
No, the whole bit was just like, dang, that was pretty good on the fly.
That was really good on the fly.
Thank you. No, I've been planning it this whole time. Sorry.
Oh shit.
I'm lying. I'm compulsively lying. I am gaslighting you. It was on the fly.
Okay. How about you, B?
I'm gonna help a fella out and also plug Retro Roulette, even though I have no idea what it is, but I'm plugging it. I have actually picked up
Sandwich.
Kirby and plugged it in, and I find it's a hilarious game. And I'm just gonna say that Car Kirby reminds me of a condom on a car. So there we go.
Thank you, B. Your check is in the mail.
A condom.
You're welcome.
Thank you, B. Now we have to censor the episode.
Oh yes, because I censor these.
Christian podcast.
My good Christian podcast.
Aw,
Please listen to our religion episodes. And yeah, I'm not doing anything different than the last time. Still playing Rune Factory 5 and Disco Elysium. I also started Super Robot Wars 30. So there's that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Oh yeah, I guess I forgot to mention that I beat Katamari the other day. That was fun.
Good job.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like I had played it a few times before, but I never got to play it back in the day. So like Reroll was actually like my first time actually really getting to play it. And back when I got it, I was like really busy, so I didn't originally like finish it. But I finished it just the other day because I had restarted the game, even though I wasn't that far from the end the last time. And just like I want to play more.
Yeah, Reroll was the first time I beat it because I do have it on PlayStation 2, but I was playing it on my PS3 back in the day, and then the PS3 died, and I was like lost my progress.
That stinks.
But it was nice finally beating it on the Switch. It was nice.
It's not even like a super long game, but it's got so much replayability that I would just go back to levels over and over again and be like, let's just do this one again.
And that soundtrack. Oh my
god, it's one of the best.
Okay. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Both to the
Thank you for having us.
It's been fun.
Thank you. And then thank you, Justin, for you put a lot of this episode together. So
yes.
I know how much this means to you. So thank you for sharing this.
Yeah, I hope I can kick this in time for Kirby-thon.
Oh, you're gonna kick it. You're gonna kick it like a champ.
Eat more bell peppers.
Get your vitamin D's.
Bell peppers.
Yes.
That's C.
Yes, but
eat them anyway.
But yes, thank you. And just not certain what our next episodes will be about, but always stay tuned to our Twitter, Xenochat Podcast. Or
we have to do the Mother's Day one soonish.
Crap.
By ish, I mean May.
That's May. We're good. We're good.
That's a problem for future us.
Yes.
Well, you said we weren't sure what episodes. I thought I'd tell you.
Oh, well, thank you. But always check out our Twitter, Xenochat Podcasts. From time to time, we'll put polls, and whichever wins the poll will usually be an episode we'll record at some point. And if you have want to email us anything, it's xenochatpodcast@gmail.com. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want. Sorry, that was gross.
I always feel dirty after I say that, right?
I've only said it like twice on the podcast because it's like I don't know.
Yeah,
we're doing this for fun, so I don't really care if we get.
Smash that button.
Make sure to ring that bell, and by that I mean go to Taco Bell while listening to the podcast.
Yeah, but I mean, if you ever have any like suggestions or how we can improve, or it's like, hey, you guys lied in that one episode, just reach out to us. We'll acknowledge it.
Check out our sister Twitter of it was Xeno Underground. Now it's godsip.net.
Ah, yes.
Be sure to ratio us on Twitter.
Be sure to ratio us on
please,
Twitter.
No.
Don't do that, please.
Please, no. All right. I think this episode should die now.
Okay.
Okay.
Rip
No,
up those ratios.
that was a harsh way to end that. But Anyway,
a video game. Yeah.
thank you everyone, and have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.